Time for another edition of Street Talk for Eileen's final week in Weatherfield. Very, very sad. I'm sure I'll have lots to say about that. It's alright, she's gone. She's not just gone for 2 weeks, Jammer. Sorry, I've done. Is that a spoiler alert? Well, we've said it now. We have got
Well, no, I mean, she said she wasn't coming back.
Oh yeah, she did in the end, didn't she?
Yeah.
She did a classic Corrie emigration flit. I think, was there somebody this week says that you don't just get up and leave? No, you do, and if you're in Weatherfield,
And
that's the only way you do.
If you can move to Thailand as long as you leave the country every 3 months.
Yes, that's something that I learned today.
That
you can emigrate to Thailand if you just hop
suspicious.
across the border every now and then. So, yeah.
I'm going to say I'm not taking advice about moving to a foreign country, the other side of the world, from Coronation Street.
I was going to say from Jason Grimshaw.
From now on, I will repeat that like it's gospel.
Okay. Right, so I just want to get some clickbait done first. Thank you very much to the people that have sent us some clickbait this week. I've narrowed it down to 3. We had a selection. A couple of them come from OK this week.
Wow, it must be good.
I know. Coronation Street fans discover Betsy Swain's real dad's identity. And he's on the cobbles.
Okay.
Go on, Gemma. Who's Betsy Swain's real dad?
People have been talking about this.
Have
and
you?
I remember seeing who it was, alright?
Yeah.
But I remember also thinking, this is so stupid, it's obviously not real, and then it just went out of my head.
That is traditionally the case in our clickbait section that is not real. Who could it be?
Who is it? Who is it that people think?
Who's somebody that would be so ironic if Becky Swain actually got between the sheets with?
Well, we don't know whether.
Or the back of a
do we
police
know?
car.
Do we know who's the biological mother?
I think we know that it's Rebecca. I think we know that it's Becky. Yeah.
She's been in the papers a lot. This woman, hasn't she?
Yeah.
There's a lot of drama.
Do you want to have any guesses?
It's not Kit.
No, it's not Kit. Good guess. I like it. You're not a million miles away.
Kit,
to be fair.
Bostello.
No. Oh, that would be good. I don't know.
I don't think
I'm
the
not
average
convinced.
clickbaiter knows who that is.
I'm not convinced that Betsy Swain would have quite such a complexion were Bostello her father.
Betsy.
Betsy, yeah.
Well, look.
Do you want me to tell you? You're going to kick yourself.
Go on then.
It's Mick. It's Mick, according to this article
Mick.
in OK. Yeah. Obviously taken from another Facebook group, as has this next one, again from OK magazine. They've been combing the Facebook groups this week. Coronation Street's Jason Grimshaw's long-lost child revealed. And they're a Cobbles resident.
Okay.
What are the chances?
Right, so...
Who is Jason Grimshaw's child?
Is this... Are we having a focus...
Secret love child.
Just like you accused me just then, are we focusing on skin tone here?
No, I wouldn't if I were you.
Right. So, is it what age is it going to be? Is it an actual child?
Doesn't
Oh
it?
my god, I can't deal with this.
Depends.
Is
When
it
you got
Betsy
up to it.
Swear?
No, but you're not a million miles away there
Again?
either.
Oh,
Tangential.
Lauren.
Yes, it is Lauren. Lauren is apparently, according to this one Facebook group, Jason's child.
These are the people who think that Jason's just a bit tanned from being in Thailand, obviously.
I don't think I read the whole of this interview, but there was a lovely interview published with Sydney Martin and Kate Fitton this week, because they're best buds now, aren't they?
They were, yeah.
My main takeaway from it was the dream of the Swain cat is not dead.
No.
I genuinely thought, what?
Schrodinger's Swain cat.
Swain cat.
Because it's inside a box somewhere and we don't know if it's dead or alive.
I genuinely didn't think this was a thing, and it was only me that cared about it. That's how little I look on the Swain fandom, and you, of course. But they were literally asked, was Sydney at the British Soap Awards last week, what's going on with your cat?
Was that Charlotte Tutton?
It might have been. And she was like, I don't know. We're supposed to have a cat. Did I have it? And I think she says maybe it was a metaphor. And Betsy related
maybe it was a metaphor.
A cataphor. I don't know. But I'm glad that there's still a possibility. And, and Sydney is still flying the flag for the possibility of Swain cat.
I've got this. My pet theory is that the Swain cat is actually in Carla's flat, crapping in her wardrobe without her knowing.
Really?
And I think that they're terrified to ask permission, and probably Betsy's a sort of ask for forgiveness kind of a person rather than permission.
Right. I don't know whether it was Sydney or Kate who said this, but they did say we could just bring in a cat to work, and sadly it doesn't quite work.
That was clearly a joke, but Yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
I like your ambition. Anyway, sorry. So that was a very long diversion from what we're supposed to be talking about. Shall I say something else or shall I leave it later?
What is it?
No, it was just, maybe I should have said at the very, very beginning of the podcast, something else that I've done this week that's been very, very good, is I've been listening to the 2-part interview with Coronation Street writer Debbie Oates on the On the Sofa podcast. And I don't usually like to advertise other podcasts.
Well, they don't advertise us.
They don't. They mention us occasionally.
No, they don't.
They did. They mentioned us when they were talking about the cast photo, actually,
back
last year. They did. Yeah, because Lovely Colson's mum was listening.
We were moaning.
Yeah. But anyway, they did a absolutely fantastic interview with Debbie Oates, who's been a writer on Coronation Street for the best part of 25 years or so. And it's really, really in-depth and it's really casual, relaxed. It's actually a really fascinating listen. Don't stop listening to this, but you can, I give you permission to search through your podcast app that you're listening to this on now. Find it, download it for later. You won't regret it.
Sorry, I'm watching a video about...
making
burgers.
Gemma's not listening to me. She's just like, Michael's blathering on. I'm just going to put a video about burgers on. Liverpool Echo is our final clickbait of the week.
Oh, you finished advertising other people, have you?
Yes, I have. Well, apart from the Liverpool Echo.
They don't need our help.
Liverpool Echo, available at all good news agents, says Coronation Street's Maria Conostar asks, what are the chances after what happened on holiday?
Somebody recognised her.
Yes, that is part of it. What are the chances, says Maria Connor, aka Sammy Longchambeau.
I was going to say, Liverpool Echo doesn't even know what her name is.
It says Maria Connor Star, so I might give them that. What coincidence.
Somebody thought she was Maria.
No.
Somebody...
I thought that you might have seen this on Instagram, actually. Okay.
What, then?
Okay, she met somebody.
Somebody who was in Coronation
holiday.
Street.
Yes, somebody who still is on Coronation Street, just so happened to be at the same place as her on holiday.
Was it Kirk?
It was not Kirk, but that would be a what of the day. It was not Andy Wyman. That would be a great coincidence.
Was it?
It is someone who's very closely related to Maria and her family.
Was it David Plattstar?
No, it was not David Plattstar, Jack P. Shepherd.
Was it? I don't. Was it? Audrey Starr?
No, it was not Sue Nichols. One more guess.
Was it somebody who's close to it? Was it?
It was a child.
Gary Starr.
It was a child.
Was it Liam Connor Starr?
It was not Charlie Renchona. It was Bobby Bradshaw who plays Jake Windass. Just so happened to be there and they snapped a photo. What are the chances of that? Eh?
I hope it wasn't a small resort.
Well, I went on holiday to London last weekend and I saw a lot more Coronation Street stars than that, so I'm not impressed, Samia, in the slightest.
Yeah.
Let's get on with properly talking about this week's Coronation Street. And we've got Eileen's... Oh, I've given away the storyline. Eileen's exit storyline. I'm calling it Tylene because she's gone off to Thailand. I had a few others. I had Eileen Has Been and I Leave. But I ended up with Tylene is better. I know, Tylene's not the best, is it?
Come on, Tylene.
I cannot believe
nobody played that song.
That they literally switched the jukebox on Eileen's leaving episode and they played La Bamba and not Come On Eileen. Is there a rights issue there?
How much money does it cost them for these songs? And is there is it, like when you have a pub or whatever and you've got to pay for a licence, but then you can play whatever you want?
I will tell you, because I learned about this
Oates.
from Debbie Oates on the Jack P. Shepherd, Colson Smith, Ben Price podcast spectacular this week, and I'm going to give it away. I'm going to give it away so that if you don't want to listen to it, you don't have to. Some bands say no, you're not using our music.
Okay.
Some say you can use our music, but not if there's any violence going on the scene at the same time. And there are some bands and artists that just it's so vastly expensive, like American ones. So apparently they don't ever play American music on Coronation Street because it's too expensive.
Are there any bands that say you can only have our song if there's violence?
I don't know. Because
that would be
good to find out. It's good to find out. The Foister is going to be my next story. And this is Tim trying to foist a fostering onto Sam.
I came up with that.
Earlier this week. No, you didn't. I did. Literally, I did. You came up with one last week, didn't you? What was your one that you did?
Something great.
It was amazing. No, it was the Eulogy. It was yours last week, wasn't it? The Foster Foister was mine. I don't know why we've got that as second, because that isn't the B storyline of the week, but never mind. A Family Affair is next. That's just that's the Webster Affair thing.
Grace.
That's not the greatest storyline title. Dylan the Villain is back, and he is actually a villain now. Well, he's tough.
I like him now.
Do you?
It's like when Gary went dark.
Yes.
I prefer them dark.
You
mysterious.
do, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And right, so Dee Dee's been mooning over Layla. So this recently, so
Oh, God.
Layla Moon, 'cause it
Like
sounds
Sailor Moon.
Sailor Moon. I didn't have my most creative juices flowing through me this week. I'm sorry. We'll start off with this Tylene story. Maybe
No,
we'll
those
do
are very good.
Maybe we'll do the family. No, they're not that awful. Maybe we'll do the family affair story second, because I need a bit of a breather. Because there is a lot to unpack here as we say goodbye to Eileen, missing her.
Are you doing this story?
Yeah, I'll do this one. Missing Eileen. Sad that she's gone.
Okay.
Oh dear. I don't think it's exactly the same as Gale.
No.
But it's similar.
Yes.
In that we've seen a vast reduction in Eileen's screen time in the past couple of years. I know that she's had some health issues that she's been very kind of public about. But it's not going to feel like the street's suddenly missing something, possibly, I'm guessing. Well, are you kind of feeling similarly?
Yeah, I've got a little conspiracy theory here, because you know how we talk about all the time, the cast is too big. I wish they would focus more on the classic characters, and like they jump around too much and sometimes you don't see anyone for months, right? My conspiracy theory is that part of what they're doing with the older cast members in reducing their screen time is not just to save money, but also to try to make it so that everyone's replaceable. People forget about you, so they don't care about you as much. And so when you come to negotiate your contract at the end of the term, they'd be like, oh, no one cares about you. You have to take 50% pay cut. Because honestly, don't you think that if you're going to be mean, which I like to be, about something, about the way they're using the older cast, wouldn't that kind of make sense?
Yeah,
make them all kind of forgettable because they're not in it.
I wish that Eileen was in it more. I mean, she is
far from her peak at the moment.
Yeah, she is far. Eileen has been a proper Corrie icon in the last 25 years. Her character has been off the ball in the last few years, but I still feel that had she stayed, had they used her to her full potential, there'd still be plenty still left in the tank for her. I think that, she's, how old is she now? 60 odd, I think. But I think that she's still got so much energy, there's so much life, so much humour about her. She's a proper Corrie matriarch in the best old style Corrie way. And I think that they're, in an alternate universe, she's still a main star of it, But yeah, it's going to be weird having number 11 without her there, and I guess as we get kind of more into it, we'll be able to share our thoughts and theories and hopes for what we want to happen to number 11 left. But yeah, it's sad. It's sad to see her go.
It's a long time since we've had the sort of classic Eileen on the switchboard scenes that were what I really liked about her character, and all those yakking it up with Steve and Lloyd in the back room.
Eileen at her best, I think, was on the switchboard. But I did enjoy the feud with Gale. But
those are her two main character traits, aren't they, really?
But also, the dynamic with her and Jason and Todd was a lot of fun as well. And we got to see snippets of that this week, didn't we? I'm really glad that they brought Jason back for this. As he was in 4 episodes, I think, Friday to this Friday, and a lot of the time he didn't have loads to do. Like, he only decided to show up halfway through today's episode, didn't he, for some reason? But it was such a good move. And Sue Cleaver's said on other interviews that she's done recently, before she even told Coronation Street she was leaving, she phoned up Ryan Thomas or texted him or something, I can't remember, and said, I'm thinking of leaving, will you come back if I leave? And he kind of was like, oh, yeah, of course, how could I say no to that? But it was doing, so good.
They're farming out the booking to the Coronation Street actors now. Fired the booker.
No more casting on Coronation Street now. It's down to the actors to find their crew. You've
got to find your own cast mates.
Yeah. So I just really, really love them this week. And I know it's not exactly the same makeup because Todd's not the same as he was back in the day. But I've savoured every second that we've had of them on the screen this week. And do you think it would? I know it doesn't really work this way. Would you have liked to have seen a version of Eileen's exit when she went with Gail? At the same time as Gail, with or without her, parting separate ways, or bygones be bygones, walking off arm in arm? Would that have...
I don't know whether we ever... I mean, we obviously couldn't have spoken about it on the show.
No.
But I think maybe we did talk about... I don't know.
Would that have worked for you? Or would you prefer them to get their own time in the spotlight?
Plausibly, they could have written it so that it would have been possible.
Especially going off to Thailand. Gail loves it, though.
It would have been a way more interesting exit for both of them to imagine them as frenemies in Thailand, rubbing up against each other, like in getting annoyed and trying to make something of their lives together. Kind of like I've said this before, kind of like the end of Death Becomes Her.
Yeah.
It would have been interesting. I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't have been quite. It wouldn't have been. They would have to have really sold it to make me believe it. But I would have found it slightly more believable than the past few weeks of her being accused of murdering her sister.
Yes, that for the exit and the whole for Eileen, that part of it really still does not sit right with me. Yeah.
I mean, I know that. I don't imagine Peter Gunn wants to leave, or he could have gone. He could have left whenever. I haven't heard anything about what his status is, but if only they had just bloody kept Julie alive, she and Eileen could have gone to Thailand, and maybe Brian could have gone too.
Yeah, I don't feel like Julie's death was
justified in
necessary.
any way whatsoever. I understand them killing people off, and I know why some people want it to happen to their characters. But in this case, to bring someone back to kill them is just honestly still find it very strange.
They would justify it possibly by saying, well, how's Eileen going to get the money to move to Thailand and invest in Jason's business? I'm sure they could have thought of another way.
Literally, Julie could have come and said, Eileen, I've won the lottery. Or, Eileen, I've been running a very successful business selling crystals to Bernie.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've made a fortune. Or... Yeah. Any insert nonsense here.
But no, I think that Gail and Eileen going off together could have possibly been quite funny, although it probably wouldn't have... You'd have been sitting there thinking, they're going to fall out again, so it wouldn't have been a happy ending.
No,
because
but it would have been funny.
Possibly would have been funny. But they could have had a storyline where they both grow so sick of each other and they could have brought back the feud, couldn't they? So they both decide independently, I can't stand to live in the same street of this woman anymore. Both of them plan a departure and they both without realising, go to Thailand together.
That would have been hilarious. Imagine if there had been a scene in the lounge at the airport.
That would have been great.
Where they both drop their bags and go, I cannot believe this. What on earth are you doing here?
We got a seat next to each other. That would have been fun.
Well,
that would have been good. I mean, Thailand's quite a big place. They probably could have gone their separate ways once they landed.
But I can imagine Jessie maybe wearing a bit thin now for Gail, so perhaps she is in Thailand, for all we know.
Could be good. I don't know. We'll talk more about that as we get there. So... I'm sure I was going to make another point there, but it's completely popped out.
Theo's in this week as well. All of
the Theo and
I
Todd
just need to say, there's literally, I've realised now, nothing that anyone could do to ever make me like this man.
Wow. Harsh words, Gemma.
The longer the time goes and the more I see of him, the less I like him.
We do have an anti-Theo feedback in our feedback section later today. So
can't wait.
I'll let you read that with great relish later. So Monday's episode starts with this story, and George is with Jason in the living room at number 11. They're having a cuppa. Eileen strides in looking at this Gazette article that's online because apparently there's a character assassination in there, and this is the pickup from last week's Noah episode. Noah didn't actually show up in this week's Corrie at all, did he?
I thought there'd be more about him.
He did the damage last week when he found out about this whole ridiculous Eileen could have killed Julie debacle. Went straight to the Gazette about it, and of course they grabbed that clickbait and run with it.
One thing I don't know if anyone else is going to agree with me here, but I found this week's Eileen scenes and lines and script or whatever could have been for any character in the whole show. I didn't find very much about Eileen's inherent nature
What would you say that Eileen's inherent nature is?
Female Eeyore.
She's
just grumpy she's just grumpy and she revels in sadness. Sarcasm.
It's the sarcasm, isn't it? Eeyore's not sarcastic.
There was nothing of... I mean, you could have made this exit storyline for any character exactly the same.
The storyline might have been. I thought there were a few good Eileen lines there. I can't remember them off the top of my head.
Maybe a few, but you know what I mean? Like, what was Eileen-y about it? I don't really know. I
think they tried to recapture some of the Eileen magic in today's episode with having her go to the cab office, with the taxi cab salute at the end of the episode. Revisiting...
It was like Sue Cleaver visits where Eileen's character used to be. I don't know what it was about. I think that maybe it's happened for a longer period than I've really noticed, that Eileen's just not been as Eileen-y.
Well, I think part of this story, it was a romance story, wasn't it? And the drawing away from each other between Eileen and George. And Eileen's never really been that much of a character defined by romance.
Maybe it was difficult to write and play for her in a sympathetic manner, being Eileen-y about this.
Maybe. Do
you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, she's much more easy to have generic middle-aged woman performance and lines.
Yeah.
Well, instead of Eileen going, you know what, George, I think I'd rather drink my own sick.
Anyway.
Than wake up next to you another day.
This article is all about the dodgy stuff that went on after Julie's death. So about Eileen being arrested for murder, the Shuttleworths doing their ridiculous embalming.
Any prediction here about a fallout for their business? Do you think that this is ever going to be brought up ever again?
I think it's possibly not, I'm going to say.
Would you go to a whatchamacallit,
Undertaker,
that had a dodgy scandal about embalming?
Well,
no, I don't think I would. I don't think we really have embalming here anyway. But I'm also kind of aghast that they've made a storyline where there's a besmirchment of the business and George isn't crapping his pants about what old Archie would have to say about it. He's not really. He's maybe mentioned it once or twice, but would you not actually be beside yourself?
Listeners, did you notice that the exact same picture of Archie showed up on 3 sets this week in Coronation Street? So it's the one where he's there leaning against, is it a wall or a bush or something, or a post, I can't remember. And it was there in the back room of the Rovers, because Glenda's now taken it over and she's made it very Glendified, as you coined the phrase on Twitter this week.
I came up with that all
by myself. It's there in number 11 on the sideboard, and it's there in The Undertakers, except the version in The Undertakers has got Tony Maudsley cropped into the picture as well to make it look like he did actually meet his telly dad at one point. But anyway, so George is panicking about the state of the business now that this news article is about, but he's got no time for that because in comes Theo and to have a word with Todd. And Todd says, look, Theo, I'm a bit worried about the state of our relationship as well. Both sets of characters this week, Eileen and George, and Theo and Todd, possibly on the rocks at various points during the week. And he said, because Todd's been there to the graveyard on Monday, hasn't he, to visit Billy's grave. No, not that Billy, baby Billy. 21 years ago today, little baby Billy died.
He and Sarah went there together and to reminisce.
Yes. While he's there, while he's talking with Theo, he spots his cut hand, when he smashed that glass last week.
Dramatic.
And Theo says, I slipped on a ladder, but we know the truth. I don't think anything comes on about that again. And then the article comes up into conversation and Todd says, look, I reckon it's Tracy what done it. I haven't got any proof, but I think that she was getting a little bit too invested in all the drama of what was going on with Eileen last week, that she's my number one suspect. But anyway, Theo then gets a message on his phone and says, oh, I need to go back to the building site. But it's a lie.
Don't let me stop you.
Actually, he's with Danielle in the Rovers. And she's saying, right, Millie's birthday party this week. You're banned from going. Not going. I don't want you anything to do with her. I don't want you anything in my life. Not a chance. And Steve's watching on with this because he then puts the idea out there. No. what happened? So
Theo asks Danielle, "Did you put this article
yes,
out to
that's
get
right.
revenge?"
That's right.
And did you find out from Tracy?
Yes,
who
sorry,
you were chatting with?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That's what happened. And she's like, "No, I would never exploit another woman's memory to get back at you. I wouldn't sink that low." And Steve says, "Oh yeah, sounds a bit like too much hard work for Tracy." I don't think it is.
No. Tracy's exactly the sort of person who would do this.
Yeah, she's got plenty of time on her hands. She totally would report something like that.
She thrives in chaos.
Yeah, totally. But though Steve does say to Theo at that point, think it could have been Noah because he was getting him a taxi on last episode and he was
I
ran my mouth off about everything that was going on with the whole embalming shenanigans.
So this is how the local papers work then?
Yeah,
just a random bloke goes, "I heard from a taxi driver that there's some sinister embalming afoot."
Yeah, exactly. And then they put the clickbait article out, don't they?
Yeah, you won't believe
Scandal
what
in local undertakers. Yeah. You'll never believe which one, or you'll never believe what Archie Shuttleworth's son has done to a local corpse or something like that.
Local woman's corpse desecrated.
That's it. By Shuttleworth's undertakers, exactly.
By cowboys.
Anyway, Jason...
You could have transplanted that to the Wild West and it would have made as much sense.
Jason comes into the pub later. I really thought this little development on Monday was fun. The Jason and Danielle... I was going to say tete-a-tete, but I think there are other body parts actually connecting more there. So she comes up to the bar and they get chatting, and Jason, ever the ladies' man, buys her a drink and says, "Oh, I've just been dumped by my girlfriend over in Thailand." Glenda was great during this because she's totally got the hots for Jason. And it was like last week she was saying, "Is it wrong to get sexual thoughts at a wake?" But she looks on jealously as Jason and Danielle sit down in the booth. It depends on who you're
getting sexual thoughts about. If it's the deceased, then yes.
Quite probably is wrong there, yeah. Anyway, they get talking about relationships, and then he learns that she's got 2 kids, no father, and then her ears perk up when she hears that his brother's called Todd. And she's like, "Oh, I wonder if. What are the chances of that?" She then turns up the flirting another level. Steve, meanwhile, is with Eileen in the cab office. She's forgiven him for blabbing to Noah, and he tries to get her to see what a top bloke George is. She really needs to be sure if she's thinking of dumping him. And he's like, "Don't end up with me, Eileen." There was a bit of a thing going on. There was a bit of a thing going on Monday's episode about Steve's many failed marriages, wasn't there? How did you find all of the will they, won't they of George this week? Because this was a perfect example for me of thinking, well, I know where this is going to end up. Eileen's leaving the show.
Yep.
Tony Maudsley is not leaving the show.
Yep.
Just
get on with it.
Just get on with it. Did you feel... I think I feel sadder about these two splitting up than Ronnie and Debbie. But I don't think I can say much more than that.
No, I don't.
Which one? What? Feel sad for them? Or do you feel... Are both of them fairly...
Even though I feel like maybe I was more invested in George and Eileen as a couple just because they've had more stories.
A bit more time together, yeah.
But the sadness of the fact that I love Debbie and she's sad that she's not with Ronnie makes me care more about that couple splitting.
Okay, that's fair point.
But... yeah, I'm exactly with you, and we've known for a long time that Sue Cleaver was leaving, and it's made this storyline to talk about Julie especially difficult on the show because we knew when Julie came to the show, we knew that she was part of Sue Cleaver's exit story, and we couldn't work out how it was going to happen, and we knew that we found out that she had terminal cancer, so we knew that she was going to die.
Second episode she was in it,
and we knew but we knew for a while she was coming back. We didn't know until she was actually on screen that she was going to die. So it's made that story so hard to talk about on the show because we didn't want to give it away.
I know, because there were definitely some listeners who knew
all along.
Something that we didn't know. It's always nice when we see on the Facebook group people going, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realise that so and so was leaving," like Daisy. How's your exit fatigue doing at the moment, Gemma?
Well, exactly.
Is it on a terminal decline? Is it a bit of a DNR on this?
I'm done with them now.
I know. It's been like a fortnightly occurrence, hasn't it? For the past 2 months, they're just dropping like flies.
And I was talking the other week about all these, three 3 died, 1 got arrested. I can't remember what I said, but we had 6, didn't we? This is the 7th.
Was it? I don't remember.
I don't recall, but
it's a lot.
A great big lovely cull would have been.
You just wanted them all at once, didn't you?
I don't know. It's hard.
If they'd have gone all at once, we wouldn't have had Daisy's spectacular exit.
Daisy and
she ranks number 1. Oh yeah, Coulson Mason actually.
They all had great episodes.
Coulson had quite a good exit, but I still say that it pales in comparison to what Daisy and Mason got.
Well, okay, but not everyone agrees.
Oh, I know.
But I think that on the whole, those 3 definitely hold them up. Yasmin's was by far the worst.
I thought that Eileen's was okay, because if you take,
and then we've
her
got
exit
Julie,
story. Oh yeah, of course, Julie. That was. Yeah.
So there you go. That is 7, isn't it?
Maybe I've lost count. If you count Julie's appearance, if you count Eileen's character, sorry, if you can't speak. If you count Eileen's exit starting the moment that Julie appears in the programme, she has had quite a decent exit story, hasn't she? It's been going a couple of months. It wasn't a quick, Yasmin, I think I'm going to go down to London now, or off you go.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they gave her something at least, even if it did ultimately end up being a taxi exit. But then so was Daisy's, and then that's what I said I loved. So
I thought this was a really well done. I liked the final scenes, but we'll get to them later. I like that she went to Thailand. I like that. I didn't really like so much all of the dragged out stuff with her and George, only because it was a foregone conclusion.
It was, and they had to do it, didn't they? They couldn't not address the fact that Eileen and George would be splitting up. But that to me was the far least interesting element to all of her exits.
And it's really hard because I don't see how they could have done it any differently. Unless
they decided to, bump off or send George off.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have liked them to have done that.
No,
but
I've appreciated. And then it's not been loads of them, but I have appreciated the scenes that George and Glenda have had together during this story.
I liked Glenda, just being really protective of her brother.
Yeah, that's been lovely. Hopefully there's more of that to come. Anyway, Eileen summons George home for a chat, and there's a fair bit of that this week. But then Todd and Theo come home and cramp their style somewhat. So Eileen says, Noah is behind the article, and this is when Jason comes down from upstairs with Danielle. So Danielle.
Would have been slightly different if it had been
Danielle. They've been up there in Mary's room.
And I would not like that at all.
With Ben Shepherd staring down upon them while they were getting up to all sorts between those sheets. And this was just a brilliant moment. I loved, even though it was silly, I did like that they did it in Mary's bed. Because it's just the image there. So I wish back for the days when they would show the bedroom. It's like a really special episode of Coronation Street these days when they have a bed scene, isn't it? They did have Tommy Orkington's golden bust appearing in the Metcalfe bed last year, didn't they? But how much would it have cost to knock up a set together for Mary's bedroom? Oh, well. Anyway, Danielle was just great on this because Jason is still completely oblivious.
He just know.
Although I just love how unashamed he is. And I don't want to cast aspersions or anything, but he's like coming downstairs like, hey mum, hey bro, hey George, I've just been having a shag upstairs. Like,
I know.
Did you hear? You didn't hear me.
No
He's
shame.
just like, he doesn't care, does he? He doesn't care.
He's a sexually liberated man.
I know, but it's a little bit, if the rest of your family are downstairs, then do the polite thing. I don't know.
We don't need to know all about all of your bodily functions, do we?
Anyway, maybe they. I was going to say maybe they soundproofed it, but then would they need to soundproof Mary's room? And then maybe they
probably
did.
because she sings at night.
But if they'd had a soundproof room up there, they probably would have put George in there with the snoring, wouldn't they? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Anyway, Danielle just thinks this is hilarious, and she's smirking to high heaven as Todd reveals to Jason that the woman that he's just been up there knocking boots with is actually Theo's wife. It was brilliant.
Jason's not too bothered, really.
Not completely. He's just glad that he's managed to get a bit of how's your father.
Yeah, exactly.
He loves it.
It's a good job he got broken up with, isn't it? Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to.
That wouldn't have stopped him. I liked how we got. Speaking of Jason's relationships, it was a nice Becky mention in today's episode, wasn't it? Yeah, mentioned it, and Steve said, "I'm married her." And so anyway. So Danielle leaves. Theo's hot on her tail, and that leads into more bickering between the brothers Grimm, Jason, and Todd. I really liked that. This was the scene where Eileen slaps Jason round the back of the head as he's walking out, and when he did it, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's what Sue used to do to Ryan back in the day, just clap him round the back of their head."
Yeah.
Back 25 years ago, you could just assault your fellow cast members and people. Just
I think that they were in character.
Yeah, totally. But I think you probably wouldn't be able to do that these days. But I loved how they incorporated that and just everything.
You make it sound like the only reason that Eileen ever hit Jason around the head was because Sue Cleaver used to beat Ryan Thomas. And
I can get away with this.
That is not the case.
It was just a really nice little mother-son dynamic of like, oh, you blinking idiot. It was fab. And even though, as I said before, this is not the same Todd as we used to have, I really, really appreciated how much they lent into that family dynamic. And I saw some people online saying, oh, Jason and Todd, why are they fighting? Did they used to fight? I think they did sometimes, didn't they? They sometimes they had each other's backs, and sometimes they fought. They didn't, they weren't constantly at each other's throat. They didn't hate each other. But I honestly think they got the balance between those three just right this week. It was brilliant. I really, really appreciate Sue Cleaver for asking Ryan Thomas if he wanted to come back to the show. But anyway, out on the street, you got Theo begging Danielle to listen to him. And he said, look, we need to be civil with each other for the sake of the kids. And she's like, oh yeah, well, I'll tell you what, you can take your wedding ring off. And she chucked it down the drain, again with great relish, didn't she? As she like, ooh, there it goes down the drain.
What do you think of this?
That's the end of our marriage, isn't it? I mean, it's no Des Barnes blowing up a boat saying, there goes our marriage, my dear, but it was very triumphant. And I'm gonna say, very much deserved moment of triumph for Danielle. She was totally scorned. I'm still insistent that I don't think that Danielle did anything wrong to deserve the way that she was treated by Theo.
Yeah.
And I know that,
and it's interesting
conversion
too,
therapy, etc., etc. But
into
she's a wronged woman.
The homophobia that Theo's hinted at.
No.
Driving his rejection of being gay, and also the fact that he was too scared to tell his family.
You did have that line from Millie in today's episode saying, oh, why did you just decide to be gay? Which gives you the impression that she doesn't quite understand it, or maybe she's been told.
That is the kind of flippant thing that a teenager would say.
Yeah, I know. I'm just kind of thinking that maybe that...
maybe there is a hint in there that she's being fed something. But I just think it would have been a much easier sell for Danielle if they wanted to make it a story about how Theo is so wronged to make Danielle into this horrible homophobic
a bit of a Granny Spellman.
But so far she's just been literally mad about
she's just been really fuming that she's been cheated on and totally walked out on by her husband. Honestly, she's like, yeah, go Danielle, go Danielle.
I'm still waiting for her to turn into a proper bigot.
I know.
I kind of like the grey area of how she's not being painted into a massive villain. And I do want to know what everyone else thinks. Like, is Theo actually popular? Do people like him? I cannot see for the life of me what Todd sees in him at all.
I don't mind him. I know
why? He's awful. He's
not
awful.
He's not awful. I don't.
What?
I don't think. No, I think that for the cheating, and walking out on Danielle for Todd, I'm not. But as a character, I still find him somewhat interesting.
No way.
I know, it's a difference of opinion sometimes.
He's pathetic, and the way that he acts, like he acted all sad when Danielle was there and he talking to her and everything. But he doesn't give a crap about any of them when they're not in his presence.
No,
it's like they don't exist.
I know. So anyway, he ends up back at number 11, and Todd tells him that Jason was well out of order then. Theo doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want to imagine what Jason and Danielle were getting up to on there. And Todd says, look, don't take what Danielle said to heart. And Theo says, no, she's right. A real man doesn't lie to himself like this, does he? And Todd notices the ring's gone, and he's like, oh, I quite like that, actually. It means I can take it for myself. And Theo's like, yeah, maybe this is the clean break that I needed. The ring's gone. Me and Danielle, we're over.
Oh, my God.
Meanwhile, you got Eileen, George, back in the pub. Glinda has heard all about Glinda the Good Witch has heard all about what Jason and Danielle got up to and sits down to hear all the gossip, which was quite fun. And she asks how they're doing, and Eileen says, oh yeah, we're fine. George is pleased that Eileen is saying that they are fine in their relationship, but Eileen really doesn't look like she's convinced with herself, and this just continues through the rest of the week. Back at number 11, you got Todd and Jason arguing again. Theo has to get in between them to stop a fight breaking out between them. And then Theo takes a call from Millie. Todd says, look, I'm really sorry for being too hard with you, Jason, but the sooner you go back to Thailand, the better it will be for everyone.
Mean.
Maybe I thought that they took the bickering a little bit too far there, but they had to explain that Ryan Thomas was only coming back for a week in some way, didn't they?
I don't understand. Why is Todd offended that Danielle's done exactly what he's been doing?
Well, quite. Why indeed?
Jason is
double
just
standards.
The Todd of that relationship.
Yeah, I know. Eileen is telling George that she is committed to him, but she doesn't want to get married yet. That's all. George says, good enough for me, and then they kiss. It was so funny watching this on Monday, because it's like, I know you've only got 2 episodes left. It's just so weird and nonsensical how they do this in Coronation Street, to have characters committing themselves to each other one day, and then barely 2 days later, they're never going to see each other again.
I know, but
Does real life work like that?
But you've never broken up with anybody.
I haven't ever broken up with anybody. But I would imagine that if I were to break up with somebody, I wouldn't be telling them, oh, I still love you and everything's great and having a lovely, oh, phew, thank goodness for that kind of... I don't know. I'm not a relationship guru.
You're not even good at the one you're in.
No, hey. It was just odd that they decided to make it.
I think this is not atypical.
Oh, maybe
you need to get on Reddit.
I need to get into more relationships.
Yeah, you need to start dating.
Get in the dating game, but a bit more experience.
Get Hinge or Bumble or Grindr.
It's like that they were trying to get the audience hopes back up for this couple when the vast majority knew that this was totally doomed. Anyway, Eileen comes home, has a bit of a sit on the sofa with Jason.
But they've got to make a story out of it. They can't just be like,
I know.
I'm going.
I know.
It's such a difficult situation because there's nothing new about this story.
Not really.
And I fully stand by what I said when I said that you could have taken this script and given it to anybody.
For bits of it, I think. For bits. Did you have any idea about how Eileen was leaving? Or did you just make the assumption that she was going to go
live in Thailand?
Yeah, I didn't know that for sure, but I did make the assumption.
I didn't even know that there was a question.
But I mean, I was so pretty sure.
Would have been a bit strange if she had said, I'm going to Thailand, and then blowed up in the car because Danielle put a bomb in there. She thought Theo was going to be in it.
I guessed that she was going to go to Thailand, but I wondered, well, what is it that makes her decide I'm going to leave at the drop of a hat and never come back to Weatherfield again.
Okay, you wondered what that was.
Yeah. And it was
Can I tell you what it was? It was because she's been learning Taiwanese on Duolingo.
Stop it. So what it turns out to be is we learn on this final scene on Monday when she's sitting on the sofa with Jason and he's like saying, oh, I need to go back to Thailand again. I need to sell the bar. Because my girlfriend's dumped me, whatever. And he says, I just don't know how I'm going to manage actually. And Eileen's like, oh, I've come into a load of money recently. How about I could give you a loan? And then he's like, better than that, ma'am. You could come in as my business partner if you want. You can do better than... And she says, no, I'm fine here. And he says, you can do better than fine, ma'am. Just think about it. So Eileen is going from taxi cab switch operator extraordinaire to bar-owning publican.
Landlord. Yeah. She's renting out her place here.
Yeah, over in Thailand. So it's a bit of a big move, isn't it?
Sounds nice though, doesn't it? I would do, honestly, if I had a son who came to me and said, that windfall, can you spend it on a bar in paradise? I'd say, yeah, cool.
I'm not what
I do think Jason will very quickly come to regret inviting his mum to cramp his style in Thailand. I can imagine
he doesn't care. It's not going to stop him bringing back the birds to their shack.
I'm not worried about the ladies. I'm worried about whatever illicit substances he might enjoy that you can't necessarily buy at a bar.
See,
I bet he gets it to all kinds.
I like the idea that Eileen's getting a happily ever after the other side of the world in a way, but equally I'm thinking, is having her in the what's it called?
I don't know.
The business of
being a publican.
Yeah.
Hospitality,
that's the word. Is that right for Eileen?
No.
Like the least hospitable person that's ever walked those cobbles.
Going all the way to Thailand to kind of kick back and relax and enjoy a lovely tropical getaway on a beautiful beach with drinks, and you go to the bar and there's this sarky northern woman behind going, what do you want?
Yeah. Like it's cute how she does it on the Switch, but in real life she did do like one shift at the Rovers once, didn't she? Do you remember? I can't remember how long ago it was or what the reason for it was, but she did. She is on the list of Rovers barmaids, and she made it like it was a bit like when what's her name? Edna? No. What was her name?
Edna Krabappel.
No, that's what I was thinking. You know, the miserable woman.
Yeah, I know.
It's like she
With
had
the twin.
one. Yeah, exactly. She had one day behind the Rovers and she just couldn't cope the constant false smiling.
But the thing is, Eileen's an investor. You don't work at the bar if you're an investor. I can imagine she's just not going to do anything ever again.
Yeah, I suppose so. I can see her perching on her throne like Jenny.
No, I'm not even going to be there. Do whatever. I give you the money, you run it. I will live off my rent.
Sounds quite nice, really, doesn't it?
I'll just hang around and eat pad thai, which is...
I like the discussion of what's your favourite Thai food this week, and George had to Google it. I'd like to say that everybody can surely name at least one Thai dish, but I am not convinced about George. And I know he likes his food, but he also seems like more of a traditional British fare kind of guy, doesn't he? I can't imagine they had too much in the way of foreign cuisine at the Shuttleworth Towers back in the day.
Fun fact, pad thai was invented by the Thai government to promote Thailand.
Oh, really?
It's it was made up by them and I think they're heavily involved. If you open a Thai restaurant, they will the Thai government helps you because they use it as a form of promotion for Thailand.
That was a good bit of fact. That's fascinating. You're not making it up. I suppose that we must pose the question now to each other. What is your favourite Thai dish? I know it's no what's your favourite pudding, but
I don't have a favourite anything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What give me one that you like. Is it pad thai?
I really like pad thai, but it's so hard to make at home.
Yeah, pad thai can be difficult.
You don't know. You don't make anything.
No, but I know I've had it at various places, and often they do taste a bit different for each other, which tells me that it's not as easy to make and get.
It's because there are very specific. I don't think you know this, but you're supposed to put shrimp paste in it.
Well, no. Well, your friend, our friend Lorraine makes pad thai sometimes, doesn't she? And it's grim because it's got prawns all through it.
Let's not besmirch.
What?
I can't remember what goes in it. I thought it was crab. I think it's crab.
I don't know.
Isn't it a Harry Biker's recipe?
Yeah. I love a chicken. I love a chicken pad. I like peanut flavoured things. The pad thai. Yeah, and that's a pad thai's right on my street there. But it's sometimes if it's just got certain sauces or contents like that.
I'm not very good at making. I make it quite often, but red Thai curry and green Thai curry. But it always ends up being too thick.
I like red Thai curry and green Thai curry, but I don't like coconut at all, do I? But I like it in those.
Well,
but again,
coconut.
Oh yeah, I know, but I like that. But again, if you put a bit of bamboo in it, it can just ruin
Michael
it
hates
to me.
that.
Yeah,
I love all the vegetables that you get in it.
If I had some red or green Thai curry and all it was the sauce and the chicken, I'd be a very happy man. I also knew Massaman curry quite nice as well.
I mean, those are really the only
they're
ones
the main
that
ones
we know.
That I know, to be fair. But I can name more than George, so I count that as a win. So, Wednesday's episode comes round, and I don't want to spend too long on this, but one of our listeners did send us something, because I remember when I said the Angel Delight thing, there's been a bit of a scandal about butterscotch Angel Delight in the news this week.
Oh yeah, so, and also
go and have a look. Go and have a Google of that.
Were they smuggling drugs to Thailand?
I don't know. Was it barley? I don't remember.
Was it Daisy?
Okay, well, the story is that some people were smuggling drugs to the Far East in packets of Angel Delight, and they could be on getting the death sentence. Probably not.
Not so funny then, is it?
No, I realise. I remember that bit a bit now. But
you imagine they were like,
Angel Delight. Just take Angel Delight. It's the best.
The people at the customs in Thailand or Bali, wherever we're going, will never know that Angel Delight is not cocaine.
It's pretty good stuff, though,
it's really, really Moorish.
Very Moorish. Wednesday's episode of Coronation Street, then. So Jason is still trying to convince Eileen to go over to Thailand with him, but she's not sure. You don't just drop everything and go the other side of the world. Yeah,
just come tomorrow.
Yeah. What did George do? What did Todd do? And then Todd and Theo come in, and Theo makes a hasty exit when he sees Jason after the shenanigans they got.
Oh, you don't like it when somebody sleeps with your wife?
Oh, yeah. Double standards again. Yeah. More bickering between the lads. Eileen storms out. She can't be doing with her. She's got too much going through her head at the moment. And Jason's just basically saying Eileen's always really happy when she's in Thailand, and that's why I've invited her out there. Todd thinks this is absolutely insane and ridiculous because he's sensible. Not, if you want to go and move to Thailand and do it. I suppose at least they did go with the idea on Wednesday's episode of let's go and have a look, and then maybe in a year's time we'll go there. I loved how George was going down that route. The thing that most people would probably do if they were considering emigrating, but not on Coronation Street, no.
It's funny, and I don't know how... Has there ever been a character who's gone, in a year, I'm going to move to so-and-so?
I don't know.
Because I think the nearest we got was Gail, who said, like, at the end of the month, or, in December, I'm moving to France.
Yeah, and she didn't just go there the next day. She took a little bit of time, didn't she, to go there, honestly. Are there story possibilities? Is there something interesting about a character saying, I'm going in a year, and then actually spending that year doing stuff that they might not have done if they knew that they were staying? Or does that just make it realistic but not interesting to watch for a storyline purpose? Yeah. I suppose if you had a character saying, we're going to go off to so-and-so, then the temptation for the storyline is for something tragic to happen to stop them going there. A bit like, Ken and Val go saying we're going to go off to Jamaica, for example. But,
if you give too much notice, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. Maybe Corrie people know that, and that's why they don't do it.
It's bad luck. Maybe it's bad luck.
Anyway, you got George being very pensive in The Undertakers later, and he admits to Todd, I'm worried about what Jason was saying about Eileen being unhappy here, and it's my fault. Maybe we should emigrate. And Todd's like, no, don't be so ridiculous, George.
Do you think there's something in Todd that's jealous that his brother gets to live this exotic, carefree life?
Yeah, I wonder.
And he's there and literally doing one of... I don't think it's a bad job, and I think they probably both enjoy it. But if you were to come up with a stereotypically... What is the opposite of having fun and working in a bar in Thailand? You would say, working in an Undertaker's in Salford. Wouldn't you? Is that not the polar opposite?
Yeah, maybe. Todd got a chance. He went on the run for a bit, didn't he? He's lived in London.
He hid in some woods.
Yeah.
I've seen YouTube videos about people hiding in woods. It's not as fun as they make out.
I bet. Yeah, would Todd like to live abroad?
No, he's too cynical. But so is Eileen.
yeah. Is that deterrent? Yeah, do you not go abroad if you're cynical?
No, that's why it stopped me. Yeah.
I don't believe any of it. So Todd's telling Theo in the pub later, Jason just needs to bog off back to Thailand.
I'll tell you what, if you don't like the monarchy here, you will not like it in Thailand.
Why?
Well, goodness me.
Are they an Uber monarchy there?
Yeah, the king drives taxis.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
No, I was making a joke about Uber monarchy.
Oh.
Right, carry on.
Sorry. George brings... I don't know. whatever. George brings Eileen.
I'm not going to say anything about the King of Thailand because I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay, it's probably for the best. You might be listening.
I might want to go there one day and have a drink at Eileen and Jason's bar.
Yeah, they won't let you in, will they? Mm-hmm. Do not serve this woman, but they won't get a photo of you, of course, would they? Because you're very mysterious and elusive. Yeah. George brings Eileen.
Maybe that could be the test when you come in. If you're allowed a photo, if you're allowed to take a photo, then it can't be me. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think you're right. George brings Eileen an unsolicited cup of tea later at the cab office and says to her about what Jason was going on about earlier about her not being happy, and she's like, no, don't worry. She's just in denial a little bit, isn't she? She's kind of seems to have settled into the, well, I suppose I'll just put up with it. It's not been too bad for the moment. Yeah. I guess it's not worth having this battle. I suppose I'm fairly comfortable, kind of thing. And she says, look, don't worry. I've turned Jason down. It's a daft idea. George is like, well, actually, eyelash. We're never going to hear eyelash again, are we?
Well, he might say I miss eyelash.
Maybe. He says, I don't think it's daft. Let's do it. I've booked us a holiday come fact-finding mission to Thailand. This time next year, we could be living in the sun for keeps. Bless him. It is a bit better than the 2 weeks in Great Yarmouth, isn't it?
I mean, whoever's got the Airbnb at Great Yarmouth is probably annoyed now. They're
splitting feathers now, aren't they?
Yeah, last minute.
Eileen's like, what do you mean? You wouldn't do this. You give up your family business. And he's like, no, it's fine. Todd would run it. I think that, I suppose the Shuttleworths in name, the line stops with him, doesn't it? So there's always going to be, in the imminent future, no actual Shuttleworths at Shuttleworth. So maybe he was just thinking, I'll tearing the plaster off before it actually gets to me having to leave.
It's like when I go to Tesco and it just makes my heart break to know that nobody working behind the counters at the tills is
actually a human,
Mrs. or Mr. Tesco.
And he says, look, I do want to go there. It's fine. This is when he does his Googling of a favourite Taiwanese... I've done it again. Thai dishes. Sorry. I apologise to the people of those two countries.
This is genuinely ignorant to say Taiwanese. I
know. I told you I've just been tired this evening. They shouldn't have countries that are their names too similar. Honestly. He's
like
just
Austria and Australia. Do you often get those two confused?
Exactly that. United States, United Kingdom.
Why was Hitler
it's the same
so
place.
mad? Surely they're all chill there.
He's just doing it desperately to cling on to this relationship because he is so in love with her. Even though it's funny, the idea is that he's totally besotted with her. He's just not very good at showing it, or hasn't been very good at showing it, isn't it? He's been quietly comfortable.
He's taken it for granted.
I think he has. Yeah, he has been taking it. And this is what happens, George, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
I might go to Thailand.
We've got a scene of Todd and Theo in the bistro later. I pretend I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I know.
They're having
That's half the problem.
There was something about Todd's 3 questions.
His dating
One of them
questions.
being, do you believe in Bigfoot? Yeah. We didn't get to hear what the rest of the list is, and maybe we're going to be drip fed to us over the year.
Don't know whether he believes in Bigfoot or not, but we do know that he does not believe in the Patterson Gimlin film.
Yes, is that the one? Is that the one?
That is the one.
The main
with
one with the swinging armed.
Now I've got a lot to say about that.
Beast. Well, we haven't got time for this because we're already running quite late as it is.
But I need everyone to listen to my opinion about.
They can't get going too far in their date because Summer and Asher come in, and apparently they've not met Theo before, so I don't know what they've been up to recently.
And I think
not
that Theo
saving Craig's life
calls Bigfoot a monkey, which is actually quite racist.
Gemma,
against
stop
Bigfoot.
Talking about cryptids.
Bigfoots.
Theo, basically, I think all of this scene was just Theo showing that he's still a bit uncomfortable about being in the gay dating game, isn't he? And he was like, well, how are you supposed to do it? And Todd's like, just don't worry, it's going to be fun. And they kind of, they're gingerly holding hands, I can't remember.
You can't say that.
What?
Just because Theo's got red hair.
No, shut up. It's a weird thing to say. Back at home later.
Gingerly holding hands.
I know, I get it. Back at home later, George is breaking the news to Todd
We're like on
and
two different
Theo.
podcasts
We are today, aren't we? About this whole Thailand thing. And Todd says to Theo, well, look, George clearly doesn't want to go. There's a ring at the door. It's Millie. Theo's daughter. Remember her? I don't know what's going on with the son at the moment. I don't know whether we'll see him again. But as I said before, I do quite like the character of Millie. And she's now here. She's left home. She's not living with her mum anymore. I can't remember. I don't know whether I wasn't listening. Do you remember what Millie and Danielle have fallen out about?
She doesn't... I don't know. She's just being a teenage girl, isn't she?
Yeah. It's probably something to do with her relationship.
Well, she's probably upset, and I think she's insinuating that it's Danielle's fault that they broke up.
Mum and Dad aren't living together anymore. Okay, maybe you're right. Friday comes round, Eileen's last episode, and she's not been enjoying Millie staying around. You said as we were watching at the beginning of the episode, is Millie's arrival going to be the catalyst for Eileen deciding, well, that's it, I'm leaving? But it wasn't
a joke.
Really.
That was a joke.
Well, I just wondered what
I wouldn't
the point
move out of my
was.
home because a teenage girl was sitting on my sofa. I think I'd think
I wonder if
of
she was
ways
being a
around
grumpy
it.
teenager. But
Just kick her out.
I don't. So far, we haven't really found out what the point of Millie moving in with them is. I don't know whether it's going to be a semi-long-term thing.
Oh, I just think next week there's going to be some kind of heartfelt confrontation where Theo has to explain what has happened and that he's, he has always been gay and it's not.
We kind of got there today.
Yeah, but I just think there's going to be some big confrontation and then Millie's going to understand and then. I just honestly cannot wait for Theo to go away. I don't know how long he's in the show for, but I am sick of him.
You never know, he might have a turning point for you. There's just a lot of today's episode. I was kind of wondering what they would do for Eileen's final scenes. And a lot of it did feel like a little bit of a rehash of stuff we had already this week. Like, will I, won't I? Should I go to Thailand? Should I not go to Thailand? Do you really love me, Eileen? Do you not really love me, Eileen? And it was getting a bit miserable. George is talking to Glenda and's like, yeah, you're right. I don't want to go to Thailand. Apparently, as our dad used to say, a wise man stays at home.
That's one of the worst sayings I've ever heard.
I know it is. At least he could have put a "I'm not wrong" at the end of it, and I would have at least believed that it would have been Archie saying it.
A wise man stays at home. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Well, I am very wise because I don't like going out.
A foolish man goes to Thailand, as my dad always said.
Back at number 11, you got Todd trying to talk to Millie. He's trying to build a relationship with the daughter of his partner because they had that to do in the street a few weeks ago, and and she's not really been in his good books, or he's not been in her good book since then. But before they can get too far, Theo comes back from seeing Danielle, and he's like, and she wants Millie to go back home and apologise for whatever it is that she's done. I can't really remember, but it doesn't matter. Millie's like, no, I'm not doing it. Well, I will if you go back home. So Millie is definitely under the impression that some kind of familial reconciliation can go on here.
Yeah.
It feels to me like she's being a bit too naive considering her age. I think that she seems old enough to get what's happened here, don't you think?
Yeah, she's a bit too old to be, yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, a lot of children don't really twig that their parents have a completely different relationship with each other than they do. Like, they forget about the romantic element and just think of it familial, kind of. But like, we're all a family.
But clearly Danielle knows what's been going on and that Theo's with Todd. I just don't think that she would... She doesn't strike me as the sort of person, Millie, who would think, if you just come back home, it'll all be fine. But at the same time,
she... Like, from her perspective, I don't... Like, I've obviously lived my whole life with you not really loving mum and not wanting to be in the relationship. It makes no difference to me whether you're happy or not happy. Just come home and stop ruining my life. I think children... It's not selfishness, but it's... of course they want their parents to be together. Of course you want your parents to be together.
Yeah, you can want it, but I think she's just coming across as a little bit naive, possibly.
Perhaps shallowly written.
But it was... Well, the whole point of this scene really was so that he could be talking to her about the complexities of relationship and who you do and don't belong to and whatever. But really, the camera wasn't even on them, was it? It was just going back between George and Eileen because they were realising that the types of things that these two were saying were quite pertinent to the state that their relationship is currently in.
Theo's saying to Millie, look, love. the thing about it, me and your mum is that, say that she got asked by your brother to go to Thailand to invest in a bar, she probably would want to go, and I wouldn't mind if she did go, to be honest with you. You know how sometimes you just want to go to Thailand, even though you're in a relationship, and it makes you realise that you don't actually love the other person that you're with.
That's like me and your mum. Like that.
That's like me and your mum.
That was tonight's script.
And George was like, that's like me and eyelash. I can't believe it. Theo's so good at relationships and explaining things in a really
he's the real guru
metaphorical way.
Yeah. Anyway, Eileen gets, because just so that they can tie up this ridiculous loose end to this ridiculous storyline, Eileen gets a call from the police who say...
I want it up.
Thank you. Eileen gets a call from the police just so that they can say, yeah, we're not investigating you anymore. That was a bit of drama, wasn't it? Eh?
They're like, case closed.
Yeah, can't be bothered with this anymore. So I'm glad that they didn't leave that one hanging. You got Steve talking to a very maudlin-looking George in the cafe later, and George is telling him that, oh, God, it's just the same thing over and over again. Oh, I don't think Eileen fancies me. I don't think she loves me anymore. And it turns out that Eileen's been confiding in Steve a little bit.
He gets the impression that's what Steve is saying.
Well, yeah, Steve says that he's been talking to Eileen about things, and then and then Eileen finds out because she goes to the Undertaker's, and George says he's been talking to Steve, and then this is when Eileen storms out and has it out with Steve, doesn't she? But yeah, they have another relationship talk. It's all very
he's like, maybe I tried too hard and it makes you annoyed, and what do you even love me?
Yeah.
And Steve told me, and she's like, what do you mean Steve told you? And she rushes out.
That felt a little bit like they just wanted to put in a classic, Steve's winding Eileen up again thing in the final episode,
Yeah.
They wanted to tick some of the boxes of Eileen's greatest hits, so they had to throw that in there because it didn't really end up leading to anything.
It didn't lead to anything, but you can definitely imagine Eileen going, this is super uncomfortable. Who can I blame this on? How can I get out of this? And when she hears Steve's name, she's like, great, I can run up the road shouting at Steve,
I guess,
and get out of this room.
Yeah. So she goes in as a blast at Steve, but he escapes in his car, and that leaves her and George.
Well, no, Steve says, I never, I want me, and then George says it wasn't Steve, it was what Theo told me.
Yeah, they kind of have another sensible, or another serious sit and a talk, don't they? They're saying, look, we've got to be honest, you just don't love me anymore, do you, Eileen? And she kind of sits down, and there's a bit of a long pause, and then she says, of course I love you, but there's different kinds of love. And this was a real heartbreaking moment, wasn't it? When she's like, I just kind of love you as a very, very good friend now, a dear friend.
Oh dear, what a boner killer.
That's the friend zoning moment that you don't expect or you never hope to have with your significant other one, do you?
I mean, George, I love you, but you're no Thai bar, are you?
No, he's not. So he turns around and walks off and says, well, I'll enjoy Thailand then. So he kind of goes off.
Thailand, you bitch.
He goes off in a bit of a huff. And
he's
you
not,
just know that at the end of the episode that he's going to have some kind of...
nice thing to say.
Yeah, which he does.
Yeah.
There was a bit more stuff with Millie, but
I like this Millie stropping, and she says my mum's been enough to turn anyone gay, which is kind of a bit of a nasty, sarky, hilarious thing for a teenager to say.
Yes. Mary finds Eileen packing later, and as is the tradition on Coronation Street, of course, you don't pack in your bedroom. Who would pack their suitcase in their bedroom where their clothes are kept?
They take all of their stuff.
You've got to bring it down into the lounge.
Down piece by piece.
I feel like that we've only really moaned about that to each other before. I don't know whether we've mentioned it on the podcast.
It's so stupid. Why would you bring everything down? It really winds me up.
It's a soap trope that really bugs me. That whenever anyone's going somewhere, they have to pack their suitcase in the lounge.
I don't mind the idea that you pack your suitcase in the lounge, because I've definitely done that. But what I haven't done is packed my clothes into my suitcase in the lounge.
Right, yeah, no, that's
I've packed things that are in the lounge in my suitcase. Like the normal sort of things that people have, like podcasting microphones and gimbals.
I guess maybe Eileen just doesn't want to carry a heavy suitcase down the stairs full of all her clothes. But honestly, it's utterly ridiculous that...
Okay, we've done it now.
Bedroom set, please. Anyway, so she's packed. They've had that last scene with Mary. Off they go to the Rovers there and have a bit of an Eileen love fest, don't they?
Yeah, Tim's there.
Sorry,
Sally's there.
no, sorry, it's not in the Rovers first. I forgot they go to the cab office first, don't they? And Tim's driving them. No, who was it?
She hasn't decided.
No, sorry, this is wrong. I'm remembering this wrong. It's Eileen and it's Tim and it's Steve who are in the cab office. And this was another tick off on the Eileen I Spy, where you say, yep, you've got a cab office in between them.
Was a pivotal moment because this is when she realises that she can just stay in Thailand.
Yes.
And I don't think we've made it clear yet that this was not the original plan. She was just going to go to Thailand for a couple of weeks, take George with her and decide if she wanted to stay there. But now she's broken up with George. She's like, yeah, sod it. I don't want to come back here in this horrible little cab office and answer the phones. I can just sod off to Thailand and never see any of you bastards again.
Yeah, exactly. So Jason's... They're in the pub after this, and Jason's there telling Eileen how easy it is to go to Thailand. The whole family are there. Todd's kind of... He takes it good-naturedly in the end, doesn't he? He's a bit sad because he's been living there with his mum for quite a lot of the last 25 years. But
I know, I don't get how easily all of this just rolls off everyone's backs in Corrie, because if my mum said to me, I'm moving to France, or I'm moving to Thailand, I'd cry for ages.
I know.
And I'd be really
Todd's
upset.
a big boy, isn't he?
And I'd be like, how can I move to Thailand?
I suppose, but I'd like to say, Tom's an independent... Todd is an independent sort, but he's not really,
No,
is
he isn't. He lives with his mum.
Bit of a mummy's boy.
He doesn't probably know how the washing machine works. I think he's going to have to get Abby over.
Anyway, they have lots of fun little scenes together in the pub this evening.
Chatting away, reminiscing.
Yeah.
Talking about Eileen's good side. And there was a really hilarious bit where she's saying, I want everyone to say, what great and kind person and what great deeds I've done. And everyone's like, And then Sally does this smirk and she goes, oh yeah, you did all that charity stuff, didn't you?
Funny,
and then she's like, oh no, who am I thinking of that does all that? Sally. So funny.
You also, you get a bit of a scene looking towards the future for this story where Todd's talking to Sean about what's going to happen next at number 11. He assumes that George is going to move out and then he'll have the house to himself. Are you thinking they're going to go down that route? Is George no more at number 11?
Technically.
But then that would only leave it as being Todd and Theo's house, which doesn't feel
great.
Quite right to me. Number 11, if it's not groaning because of the number of people they're cramming into it.
Well,
and I suppose Mary's there as well, isn't she?
What about if George moves in with Glenda to the Rovers?
Well, he couldn't he?
I mean,
Maybe.
Even if it's temporary, I'd still love it, because can you imagine Glenda? There would definitely need to be a scene where Glenda's like, George, stop walking through the bar on your way to work. You're bumming everybody out. People are here to have a good time, not to be reminded of their imminent demise.
Yeah, I could see that. It doesn't feel to me that George needs to stay there, but if he's not there,
where would he go?
It feels like there's no reason for him to stay on the street particularly.
I know, but I think
he's got the giant house that Glenda now.
What does she do with it now? Because she's moved into the Rovers.
Yeah, but I think that's only a temporary measure. It would be weird, and this is the conversation that Todd and Sean are having. Like, why would you stay there living with your potential ex-son-in-law? It just doesn't really work, does it?
Well, not a lot of the living arrangements do make sense.
Although they will be still working together, of course. So I hope that's not too awkward for them. But yeah,
it won't be.
I don't need George living.
George and Glenda living together for a bit, I would really enjoy.
I would like to see
because I like their scenes together.
Yeah. He gets just very sad, really, doesn't he? He goes to the back room, has a bit of a cry with Glenda, says, "Oh, how do you keep fighting if you're the only one fighting for it?" So that's all very sad. And then
normally, if you're the only one fighting, you win.
This is true.
You just got to be more positive.
And then we have Eileen's final scenes. Really, I'm glad that there was the celebration at the end, because a lot of the scenes in today's episode with Eileen and George really did bum me out. But it was nice that they were able to meet together for a proper knees up and have a couple of... Is Rhys Dinsdale, did he direct today's again? There are a couple of nice high up shots above the booth in the Rovers. Everyone was just having a lovely time.
Out.
They were getting the crane out in full force on the street for the final scene, weren't they? We get the idea that Tim and Steve are plotting something outside, because he comes in and kind of tips in the wink. Doesn't he? Yeah, and then they go outside and it's all of Streetcar's taxis, which we up until this point thought that they maybe had 2?
Well, like, they definitely had 2 before. But
Where do they stay? Because there's certainly no room outside the offices.
So what do you think they did? Do you think they just got a bunch of taxi toppers, like with the numbers on them, and just put them on, like, go, right, you're bringing your car to work. You're bringing them in. You're bringing it onto the street.
You just get the impression that they've got this massive. How many people
Fleet.
were there? 6.
Oh no, more than that.
8?
10.
Maybe.
They were all up and down the road.
Yeah. It was a bit reminded me of Devon and 7 Shops a little bit that we never saw, but at least there they were mentioned. I really didn't think that streetcars were supposed to have any more than 3-4 cars tops.
I really would love to know where all those cars came from, and they must have been used for other things before. Because do you remember somebody posted? There's like a car forum somewhere. And they were talking about the cars that were on Coronation Street. I remember that. Those guys must know where these cars have been seen before. Like, I bet you they could go, episode 300 episode 10,500 and whatever. Yeah, that was David Platt's car.
Yeah, maybe.
Don't you think?
Did you like the
we haven't even said what happened.
Yeah, basically they go outside. There's all the cars are parked along the street, and then Eileen gets into her taxi after saying goodbye to everybody.
They're all saluting. All of the drivers are standing there for about 5 minutes saluting Eileen, who's ignoring the hell out of them. She doesn't even recognise them by name. No. She doesn't go, oh my God.
Doesn't go and say goodbye to them, does she? They don't get a hug from Eileen.
Look, it's John and Tom and Ricky.
Oh, and there's Patrick. We've not seen you here for about 20
brilliant.
years.
It's so nice to see you guys. I'm going to Thailand. She just completely blanks the lot of them. They're standing there the whole time like with their hands shaking from the effort. But I bet when she gets in the car and drives off, they're like, oh God, good riddance, you horrible old cow.
I know that we were spoilt by having both Julie and Jason come back as part of Eileen's exit storyline, but I really would have loved it if Lloyd had come back as well.
Well,
that would have been just amazing.
Yeah, but, I know. And you often, Craig Charles is often in
Media City. Yeah. They could have just hoiked him in, couldn't they?
She never phoned him up, did she?
Well, maybe she did. Maybe she did, and he turned her down. Anyway, yeah.
Maybe she's like, yeah, Ryan, you're definitely the first person I thought of to phone.
Steve says, I quite like it when he was saying to Eileen, come to think of it, this has been one of the most important relationships of my life, and it has. And I only wish that we'd seen a little bit more of Steve and Eileen in recent years.
Exactly.
Because they had so much great material together in the early years. But I'm glad that they at least recognised it in tonight's show.
This is one of the troubles with Coronation Street, and these 2 big exits that we've had with Gail going and now Eileen, is that all of the things that make them great are just memories.
Yeah,
do you remember this? Do you remember that? Yeah, because nothing really great has happened to these characters
recently. No. Yeah. So she just basically gets hugs with everybody. Hugs with Jason. Hugs with Todd. And
that's I'm just saying. That's not to say that their history and memories aren't important. I'm just saying there's nothing new to talk about.
George comes along and with a neck pillow and a bag for her, though, as you pointed out, they probably didn't have a neck pillow in the prop cupboard, so he just had probably an empty bag there. Yeah. And they agreed to stay in touch. Great. Which is sweet. Getting a taxi drive off. Honks aplenty from the taxi drivers as they go down. And
still saluting this girl.
I'm glad that they pushed the boat out and did something slightly different. I think, if they're going to get a taxi exit, that was a pretty good one for her. Still no Daisy, but I thought that was nice. And she's smiling in the cab. So often on the cab exits, they're just kind of miserably looking out the back window, aren't they?
Yeah.
But her final line was something like, you know what, we're going to Thailand. And her and Jason are laughing away. And
she doesn't even wave to George and Todd.
Doesn't she? No. I didn't notice.
They're there in the back window waving, and she's like, bye.
So that's it for Eileen. I assume one of these days we'll do a up-to-date character profile of her, so we don't need to go into huge detail here. But do you think that she's up there? Would you class her up there as a Corrie legend? Is she a modern one?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, she's had some really great moments. I loved the stuff that she was involved with in Feeling. I think that was probably her most recent peak, wasn't it? The Feeling. Everything with the George relationship for me, just hasn't felt quite right. And maybe, maybe that's what they're saying with the fact that they never really seemed truly in love with each other.
Poor
but
George.
quite often, I think we just didn't get to see a whole lot of the pair of them together, did we?
No, yeah. And Eileen's so cool. Like, as a cool person, that like the opposite of warm, rather than the opposite of sad. She is so cool. It's difficult to make a real loving relationship without her character just becoming completely un-Eileen-y.
But anyway, we'll talk more about Eileen when we do that character profile, and we will see what the future holds for Todd and George. I hope it holds something for Todd. I assume it still will with Theo here. It's felt like even in recent years, Todd's been a bit of a victim of of the lack of Eileen on the show, because we've not seen very much Todd either. But his story doesn't need to stop now just because his mum's bogged off to the other side of the world, because he's still very much embroiled in the Silverton shenanigans, isn't he? Gemma grimaces at that. Anyway, I thought that wasn't too bad a final week for Eileen at all. Let's go on with the next story that I was expecting to do, which was the Foster story, and this was Tim and Sally, and this had some really lovely scenes. I know that you're not the world's biggest Tim fan, Gemma.
Oh, I loved Tim.
I don't know whether people listening know this, but any time you got a scene of Sally and Tim like sitting around that table or sitting on the sofa, you're going to get some good dialogue, because they have got chemistry coming out of every orifice. They are so good together. These two are just a brilliant double act. I love Tim. It's so they just do it again and again. They repeat it. They have Tim has been an idiot. He's done something really stupid, and Sally is really just kind of taking him to task and making him feel like an idiot. And that's what we had this week, didn't we, with the Foster lady coming round, and Tim kind of sitting there just looking miserable, like a naughty schoolboy who's been caught out and he's about to get his bum smacked. It's just so fun.
One day she should snap and just stab him to death.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to run down the main parts of this story this week?
It could be a storyline about the dangers of weaponised incompetence in heterosexual relationships.
I don't like the sound of that.
Right, so Monday, Tim is hiding an email. He's got this meeting later today and he doesn't want Sally to know about it. And he's like, oh, just out of interest, when the kids came over the other day, did you like it? And she's like, yeah, but I'm glad it was only for one night. Can you imagine? That'd be a bit too much if it's any more than that. And he's like, uh-oh. Then he...
Do you think that they're going to... Do you feel that this story is going to end...
With them fostering, yes.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, it's the good and worthy thing to do, isn't it? And so Sally doesn't want to. It's because she's an evil cow.
But Sally likes to be seen to do the right thing. She likes to blow her trumpet and say, "Hey, look at me, everybody! I'm being so noble and honourable and self-sacrificial." We
have some scenes, really funny scenes in store for us where she is trying to impress foster children who are like just really like from really rough, like going, look, children, I've made you some feta cheese, and they're like, what is that?
There is some potential here.
I used to be the mayor,
I don't want them to jump straight to the first foster child they get is the one to keep. Like how Roy and Hayley, they fostered Wayne and Fizz, and there are a few other ones. I think they're having a string of unsuccessful foster children.
Well, look,
each of which winds Sally up in various ways.
No, they couldn't do that because I think that they're very pro foster. They don't want it to look as though they have to make it look like a positive experience.
I don't think it would matter if they eventually found the right one.
They've got to be careful. I think they've got a bit of responsibility to... The thing is about it, they don't have to be unsuccessful fostering. They just have to be, like, the kids think she's corny.
And maybe if they went down that route, it would be sending the message somewhat of foster, and if you don't like them, you could just ship them back.
Exactly. It's like having a child, but with none of the... What's the word? Long-term responsibilities.
Yeah. Just have them for a bit, test them out.
Do you want children... but you're not sure? Right, so yeah, I think Corrie's really pro foster, and that they're gonna be keen to make it look positive, which I think is important.
They are. I'm enjoying it, but I don't particularly want Sally to have and Tim to have a foster child at the end. We don't need another child on the street.
Yeah, that's
and
the
thing.
thing.
And I know there's the possibility that are they going to foster Brody? Are they going to foster Shanice and Joni? I don't really want that. Well, I like the idea of the story, yeah, as long as it doesn't end in the child staying.
Well, I can imagine them all sitting around in the writer's room, and I know I like to do this because it makes me laugh, not because I think it really happens. So I'm not trying to be mean to the writers, but they sitting around going, we need some more kids in the show. We've done all the surveys and everyone wants more children in the show. We know this for an actual fact that teenage characters are the most important and interesting characters in Coronation Street. So how can we get more of them in? What about the STC? No, we've done that already. All right, what about if one of them gets bullied by one of these kids that's a new character? No, we have done that already. Okay, so what if the kid is the daughter of the son of a murderer? No! Can we think of something different, please?
And then they settle on fostering, which is one of Coronation Street's most well.
They just get Dom in. Go, right, you work, you know about past times. What did we used to do before prisons to get kids in the show?
That is actually true, isn't it? Yeah, back in the day when they had Sharon and Jenny being fostered by Rita.
So Tim and Steve are in the camp office, and Steve's like, "What is the secret to a happy marriage? How you and Sally stayed together for so long?" Because he's obviously a bit sad about him and Tracy not being together
I can't
anymore.
remember whether Tim actually gave an answer to that.
Well, Tim's just feeling a bit guilty at this point because he's like obviously going behind Sally's back.
Yeah.
And there was a bit later on in the Eileen story where everyone's kind of sick of hearing about how blissfully married Tim and Sally are.
Yeah. I do think that, if Tim wanted to be really sneaky about it, I would have maybe tried to go to the fostering offices rather than asking them to come back to my house.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had to have tidied up then as well.
Also,
that's very much
like
Tim trying to find the easy way of doing it.
Why don't we meet at the cafe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do feel kind of sad here for Tim that he's something that he apparently really wants. I mean, it does feel a little bit like
I've always had a passion.
My dream has been to foster children, but he talks about the fact that I can't remember when it was in the episode. Yeah, that he did such a terrible job with Faye.
I think Sally said that she thinks he's missing out.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you're missing out on, but so yeah, Tim goes back home and he's getting ready for this imminent arrival of the foster lady when Sally comes home because she's forgotten something and notices he's got his best shirt on and his best slacks, his Get Lucky outfit, and I'm glad that they didn't lean into her thinking that he was having an affair. But because she obviously has no thoughts of worrying about that because she immediately thinks it's for her and starts trying to drag him up the stairs.
Oh yeah, she did, didn't she?
But then there's a knock at the door and it's Louise from Social Services, and Sally, credit to her, plays along with this and pretends that she's not surprised.
I don't know, is it credit to her or is it because she knows that if I play along with this then I've got even more that I can tell. What?
If she at this point had said, "I'm really sorry, Louise, I don't know why you're here, I am not interested in fostering," that would have completely ruined their chances forever of having a foster child. Because if you're social services and you come and they say, one of them is clearly not interested, you would just never want to go back there again.
Yeah.
Why would you put a child through that?
Yeah. So why did she play along then? Was it just to save Tim's
because she's
ego?
Yeah, she's
or is it just because we know Sally does like a bit of role play?
Well, she's probably interested in knowing where's this going. I do. And also, can I make him squirm?
I think it was a bit of that as well. She doesn't want him to look an idiot in front of this woman. I guess maybe she just wants him to look an idiot in front of her later so that she gets the full force of it.
Every wife's most cherished hope.
Making your husband squirm and then apologise profusely. It was great. It reminded me of the Donkey Sanctuary. I mean, it wasn't like it at all.
Weatherfield North or South.
Yeah, that when they have little meetings, Sally, Tim with an important person, They must be such fun characters.
Maybe her natural authoritarian personality just came through and she couldn't pass up the opportunity to show off her lovely front room as well. Maybe. So anyway, she plays along. Tim is just squirming. Louise is saying, this is just an initial meeting. We're talking about the qualities you need for fostering, etc. And then the meeting ends and the lady leaves and Sally is completely fuming and she goes to work.
Yeah, she heads back to work, which is brilliant as well, because that meant that Tim then had to stew for the rest of the afternoon.
Oh, no, what's she going to say? She gets back. When she gets back, she says that he's betrayed their relationship and humiliated her. And he's like, no, let me explain. I just wanted to find out more. You were so brilliant with Lou's kids and Mason. I just want to make a difference in kids' lives. And Sally says, look, I don't want that kind of responsibility again. And he says, I'll have your back 100%. And she's like, well, what, like earlier? Don't think so. So Tim talks to Steve later and Steve's like, yeah, you kind of were a bit of an idiot there, trying to arrange it. And he says, take it from a 7-time loser. Sometimes all it takes is a single screw up. Which I think is kind of an interesting take on the failure of all of Steve's marriages. I don't know that it was one single mistake every time.
No.
I think the mistake is Steve.
That's the common factor in it all.
It is a bit, isn't it? So on Wednesday, it's him still in Sally's bad books.
That was the episode where he ends up making her tea, wasn't it? To try and apologise.
Glenda is... There's a bit about Glenda and...
There's a bit about Glenda and...
She's still spending money, Carla's money.
Sally just happened to be in that scene, that's why I've written it in the same thing. But
and she offers to look over the books for Glenda.
Oh, yes! Wednesday's episode was Sally and Glenda in the back of the Rovers, wasn't it? This is a team up that I don't think we've ever really seen before, but this worked really well.
And it made sense as well how they got her into it, because Sally's so nosy. Of course, if I was good at accounting, of course I would like to look over the books of a local business to see exactly how badly they're in the hole.
Yeah, well, especially
fascinating.
One owned by Mrs. Connor.
Exactly. So they get chatting in the Glendified back room, which I really liked. There were pictures all over the place. Glenda, there was feathers stuck in places. There was like a show bill from her performances.
Yeah.
There was maracas on the table.
And a tambourine in the fruit bowl.
Yeah, loved it. So anyway, they're chatting about fostering, and she's like, I cannot think of anything worse. And
it's funny because they talk about the little big shots, don't they? Or little big stars, as Sally calls it. And Glenda's like, I can't wait to get them to their parents at the end. She says, I love them, but I couldn't keep them. Aww. So I still wonder whether they're ever going to go down the romantic route for Glenda, because for such a desirable woman, she's just been completely
neglected.
Nothing apart from that very, very brief entanglement with Michael last year in the romance stakes. It's almost like, is she too much to handle? Like, what kind of person could... Yeah,
what kind of man can handle those curves? Yeah. Those dangerous curves.
I wonder. I love her being single.
Oh, do you? Yeah, I don't really like her in a relationship.
I don't know whether I'd like her in a relationship or not, because it'd get all a bit serious.
Yeah, too serious. And also, I love her flirting with everybody, and also I'm raunching over people.
Yeah, like over Jason.
Yeah. She's just fun, and I
think it's one of these careful what you wish for, because I'd like Glenda to be happy, but she is happy.
Wow.
I think she's happily single.
Wow. Anyway, we don't know. We just want her to be happy, don't we, Michael?
Yes, I love her.
So they're chatting away, and Sally says, yeah, Tim is really keen on the idea because he thinks he failed Mason and he missed half of Faye's childhood. And Glenda says, well, what's putting you off of the idea of doing it? And Sally says, well, I got the wobbles. Kids can be difficult, and I'm not getting any younger, am I? And then Glenda says, but you and Tim could really make a difference to a young child. So when Sally goes home, Tim has cooked dinner. The meeting comes up again, and Sally just says, like, it's really made me upset, and maybe I'm just a bit intimidated and frightened by it. And so when they watch a film later, Sally says, the Joni and Shanice, they were pretty nice. And Tim says, yeah, I did a really bad job of being a dad to Faye, but you were so good with Rosie and Sophie. I don't think she was, really. And you were great with the Michaelis girls. And then Sally says, maybe they were just grateful to be cared for. Maybe it's not too late.
Yeah, so this just kind of ends with the possibility that one day in the future...
I think not in a not too distant future.
I don't know, maybe. I don't know when it's coming back, but the way that it ended there with could be a bit of a, this is the end of this filming block, maybe we'll come back to it in a month.
Yeah.
But maybe it is next week.
Would
I've
you
literally
say
got
that...
no idea, but it felt like this is putting it to bed temporarily.
Would you say that Sally was a good mum? I mean, she let her kid get kidnapped.
I think that Sally was predator. A good mum. She had that pushy phase, didn't she? She wanted what was best for her children. She's certainly knows Cilla Battersby Brown. I think
in the world of Weatherfield, she's actually one of the top parents.
She was a classic Corrie parent, wasn't she?
Classic Corrie mum. Yeah.
Her and Gail bringing up all their kids together in the late 80s and the early 90s. Yeah, it was great. Okay, so I've not got a whole lot to say about that. It felt like it was a nice kind of low stakes story, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And yes, there was a bit of tension in there, like, what's going to happen? Is Tim going to have his meeting? But it was all just very gentle and lovely. And I felt like a proper classic Corrie couple of scenes.
No weird camera angles. They didn't go back in time. They didn't look from the ceiling.
I didn't feel like I was really needing to learn about anything there either.
I'm really glad that the social worker didn't...
foster centre.
Yeah, but the social worker didn't come out and go... Did you know that in the UK there are over 50,000 children waiting on the list to be fostered, and these fostering periods
they
can
avoided
be
all
as
that.
Little as one day,
very nicely done,
up into all the way up to a permanent adoption. But don't worry. Shut up.
All right.
Also, all of those facts are not true. Let's
do this Webster story.
Don't listen to podcasts.
This is just going in all the wrong directions for me. Yet again this week, we had Abby and Carl really, really nearly having a kiss. And I was like, at last, they've finally got there. This place where we don't want this story to be going, but we knew it was heading, it's careening to that wall. And no, it's not. It's been kicked down the curve. It's kicked down a little bit further.
I thought you liked this story.
It's just awful. I hate so much with a passion the idea of Carl and Abby getting together.
Why? Because you're jealous.
Sickens me. Absolutely sickens me.
Do you not think? Well, there was definitely a bit of a steamy scene when they were nearly kissing each other.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was talking about. And I was saying, at last, here we are.
Yeah, but they
weren't.
All right, they had a lot of chemistry in that scene. That was really a steamy scene. Whereas with, I'm sorry, but Todd and Theo is like a block of wood.
It was steamy, but I was just like going, Abby, no, resist, don't do it. And she did resist. No, she was the one that lifted her lips up to him, wasn't she? Oh my gosh, it was terrible. Right, so you got.
Tell me what sausage is in German again.
It's the Wurst. I don't even. There's just lots of him being in the garage, isn't there? I don't even remember. I don't want to talk about it. It just winds me up, this story. Abby catches Carl on the phone on Monday. He's arranging to meet someone later, and he's like, no, it's not a date, but he is a little bit cagey about who it was. Tracy comes over. She wants her car looking at, and Carl's like, yeah, brilliant, I'll do it. And they get a bit flirty there, don't they? This. So there's the whole Tracy's and Carl.
Abby's now jealous of the fact that Carl is flirting with Tracy, which is funny.
That's a sign that you do have some feelings for this guy, isn't it? Sadly. I don't know what you see in him, either of you two.
Well, I wasn't jealous, so obviously I'm not into Carl.
This is what gets Steve kind of down in the dumps about his terrible history with women, isn't it? When he sees Tracy's moving on, yet another one of his exes is finding somebody new. It's
funny that Steve keeps appearing in everyone's storyline, just pining over everyone else's relationship.
I remember when I had a story.
Reminiscing about how crap his life is. It's almost like Steve could have had his own separate strand this week of him going, how do you do relationships?
Carl just creeps. Give me the creeps. This storyline is just about him preying on this woman who has clearly said numerous times, no, I'm not interested, mate. And he's like, no means yes, I'm going to keep doing it. Because he thinks it's charming.
Look, I was definitely in this is creepy sexual harassment camp before, but Abby's given out.
I know.
Pheromones.
She is.
And it's really, can I just say...
It's not to Sarah Louise extent, like, oh no, Damon. My top's fallen off.
Yeah. But it's really difficult and awkward to talk about, right? Because this is a very toxic frame of thought to have had her worn down to this extent. And this week, she definitely felt like she was relenting and starting to find him really attractive. And it just sends out just really terrible messages, especially in this world of Andrew Tate and all of these guys who, in the manosphere, sending all these really bad messages to young boys.
This is like saying, just keep badgering them and you'll wear them down eventually.
Yeah, but in this
And I know there was a bit of a spark. The first time they met, there was a bit of a spark in the car park.
But I'm just saying, in this week, my toxic admission is that I was getting from Abby that she actually was not minding. And I don't know, this is really difficult for me because I'm thinking to myself, is she actually changed her mind of her own volition, or is he brainwashed her in some way?
Well, what's going on in the background? Because you got a few scenes this week, haven't you, of her trying to cozy up with Kevin a little bit, but because he's a bit knackered with all the chemo and everything,
an infection don't tell anybody.
He's not really up for it. But come on, Abby, you're better than this.
Can there never be a story like this in soaps without everybody complaining about it sending a bad message? And how important is it for soaps to be conscious of things like that?
Oh, I don't.
And you can't ignore the entire history of like romantic stories. It's only recently that people have realised you can write a rom-com without the man just being a stalker.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, look, Carl carries on flirting with her later, and there is a bit of a flirty banter between them. There's some lingering looks, and he gets this message from Fiona. She doesn't see that it's from him and thinks it's Tracy because of what went on between them earlier on when Tracy agreed to go out for a drink with him or whatever. And Abby leaves him to lock up the garage afterwards, so then nothing particularly comes of that. I suppose he's just left in the garage for when Fiona comes later with £1,000 for him for all this wonderful work he's been doing.
In God's name has he made £1,000 doing a dodgy MOT?
He's been doing many.
This makes no sense whatsoever. Why, if you had £1,000 to get your car through the MOT, tell you what you could do is just pay for the actual MOT.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Or buy a car for £1,000 that might be a bit crap, but it will get you where you need to go. Obviously there is a business in dodgy MOTs, but I can't see it really making you £1,000 in the first week.
I know. Right, you got Carl.
Well, no, because she comes in with the money and goes, "Here you go. I've got another job for you at the end of the week. What? I'm not doing another job. I've got £1,000 from this one. I'm quitting while I'm ahead."
You didn't even see him doing it.
Exactly.
Mm. Carl and Tracy end up in the pub together. They basically just have a bit of a flirt fest. And then you also get Abby and Kevin on the sofa, her wanting to have a bit of rumpy-pumpy and him turning her down. So she's just left a little bit frustrated. Abby goes to the pub then, I think, with Kevin, don't they? And she's watching Tracy and Carl sort of at the bar.
Flirting.
Yeah, flirting at the bar a little bit. And she
well, he comes over to them. And Kevin goes.
I forgot.
And Abby's like, listen, Carl, you don't know Tracy, but she is very high maintenance.
That's it. It's your funeral, she said.
Shouldn't.
Yeah.
You probably shouldn't.
Okay, Wednesday was the day of the nearly kiss. Abby's supposed to be taking Kevin to his chemo, but he's like, don't worry about it. So, okay, she's left feeling somewhat rejected. I don't know why Kevin is so insistent that Abby doesn't take him there. But it's... Well, they're trying to use that as a reason why she's feeling, maybe I will just stick my tongue down Carl's throat then. Sorry, it's not a very strong one.
They might feel like he's a burden, or that he might be afraid to look vulnerable. Because one thing I keep thinking of, they haven't mentioned at all here, is that the age gap is, between Abby and Kevin is obviously not... there is one.
Yes.
And I wonder how much Kevin is thinking to himself, I don't want to look like a frail old man in front of my wife, my hot young wife. I don't want her to get like a taste of the future, or maybe thinking to himself, this is my future. I'm going to be old and sick and she's going to have to look after me.
Yeah.
How much is that fueling any kind of guilt? Or...
That's why I think we could do with having a little bit more Kevin in this story.
I know.
And having him confide in Tyrone or Steve or...
It's like Kevin actually really does have cancer and he can't be in the show because he's too sick.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Carl goes to the garage later. Tracy comes and joins Abby as well, who's just kind of sneering away. She doesn't like seeing them together. Tracy's feeling pretty confident with her chances with Carl. But Abby's like, no, look, you're just going to be the latest in a string of women. He's a bit of a player, this Carl. Today, well, Wednesday and Friday, there were a few little bits between Ronnie and Debbie, wasn't there, in the potential reunion that's still not happened yet, but it feels like it's going to be on the cards at some point. The big dementia scene of the week was when Debbie's trying to pay for something at the corner shop with the coins, but then can't work out what's what, I think, was it?
I think she's of a generation of people who actually can do this. I think lots of young people, I don't want to be mean, but they probably wouldn't know they had dementia because they're scared of paying with coins. So I remember one time I went to the farmer's market and I had, when you're like, okay, this is like £3.13, so I give you a £5 note and 13 pence and you give me back £2.
Yeah. I
tried to do this to this guy and he's like, I don't understand what you're talking about. And he actually looked scared at me. And he said, I've got to do it with a calculator. Like I was trying to bewitch him or something with coins.
Funny. But yeah, so she was kind of leaning. She couldn't work out which coins were which.
No.
So not a good sign.
It's like being in France.
Maybe a little bit heavy-handed.
No, I thought it was fine.
But anyway.
Because she obviously caught herself off guard and then she panicked more and that made it more difficult.
Yeah, I don't think that she's so far gone yet that she couldn't recognise coins. You're right, but I think there was a little mini moment of misunderstanding.
Because we don't understand
us, and then that just ballooned. Yeah,
we don't know how your brain works when this is happening. Everyone knows what it's like to forget something.
Yeah,
right. We all had that experience, but I don't know what it's like to do what she did in her test when you have a clock and you're trying to write a time and you don't know how to do it. There's obviously something different about the way her brain works now that she can't look at the coins. And that's not something that I have experience of, but Sue Devaney did a fantastic job.
Great. She's the new poster child for Coronation Street, isn't she?
Oh,
if
yeah.
you go into her ITVX, Craig's gone. Yeah, lovely Debbie is our splash page now, so more Debbie to come in the next month, it looks like.
When Craig appeared on the Flash Splash, whatever you want to call it, page, it wasn't long till he died.
Well, same with Mason. We had him there as well earlier this year, didn't we?
I'm really worried about Debbie.
No, we still got her for a while to come, I think.
I know. I really hope that she's in it for at least one more year.
At least a year.
She's got to, please.
Yeah. We get more of Carl chasing after Abby again, which is just vile. He's basically, come on, you fancy me, I really fancy you. And she's still telling him at this point, back off or I'm going to tell Kevin. Just tell him,
you dizzy cow.
He's not going to stick with Carl over you. He doesn't even know his brother.
The thing is that it's like, oh, Kevin's sick, we can't bother Kevin. At this point, I would have told you ages ago. I would have told you as soon as Carl turned up. That's the guy that was flirting with me, that dog.
Yeah. Well, you missed your chance now. There's a few little side stories as well in this episode. Yeah. You got Kevin collapsing at the hospital. You got Debbie worried that Ronnie and Leanne are having a thing, which they're not, are they? There was a couple of scenes on Wednesday where they're kind of just getting on and having a nice laugh together. But then, the big moment at the beginning, in the middle of the episode, is when they're back at number 13 and Abby almost gives in to her temptations, but to kiss Carl,
not just to have a nice cake or something.
But she can't because she finds out that Kevin's collapsed. I was just kind of I was feeling very ho-hum about this story.
This is so funny because I actually found this interesting.
It didn't do it for me.
And for the first time this week is the first time where I thought, I can see why Abby would go with Carl. Because before I was like, this is repulsive. This man gives me the ick. Like, how rude.
Is he not just like Theo to you in that he's a bit of a philanderer?
That scene when Carl and Abby were going to kiss, I was like, I can feel this. I can feel this through the screen. They've got some chemistry going on here. It's really interesting that you don't feel the same way at all. You're like, no. Cheating is wrong. Cheating
is bad, especially when it's Abby. Noble Abby. Honourable Abby.
Blabby Abby.
Guy comes to the garage later wanting to speak with Fiona, who he bought a dodgy car off of, and Carl's at first saying, well, I don't even know who she is, but the guy's like, I don't believe you. This isn't over. He huffs off, so I guess we're going to see more of him.
Who'd have thought that it wasn't just an easy way to make money with no strings attached?
No consequences here. Debbie tells Ronnie about Kevin and his collapse later.
Okay, so here's my other question. What's happened that this man gave where did the money come from? So he obviously doesn't know that he's getting a dodgy MOT.
Right.
So what's happening?
Or is this from a car that was being sold the other week?
So is Fiona just going, yeah, the MOT got done and it's all fine?
I can't remember what he said. He might have said, she sold me a bad car.
The MOT was done, but it cost £1,000 to fix it. But then they don't fix it. I literally don't understand how you make...
I think that they're passing MOTs and then selling the cars on. I think that's the scam.
So they're buying a car, giving it an MOT, and selling...
putting it through its MOT even though it shouldn't pass it, and then they're selling it on. That's the scheme, I believe.
I just can't believe there's that much money in it. Maybe I'm an innocent, and maybe I need to get into this.
That's why you're not in business.
Don't understand business profits.
No, you're not an entrepreneur.
Tell you what the problem is, Michael. I've never seen this on The Apprentice, and so I don't understand how it's a business.
Debbie tells Ronnie about Kevin and his collapse later, says, look, sorry I snapped at you in the shop earlier, sorry I hurt you and I dumped you, but she's still not wanting to get back together. She just says to him, look, just be careful, don't throw yourself into another relationship. Leanne, I've seen her sniffing around you, Fiona, and Ronnie says, look, honestly, there was nothing going on between me and Fiona, but, you can talk, what about you and Ross? And then she scarpers.
Is Ross the guy that
Ross
was
is the guy from the support group. Yeah, exactly. Carl gets home later to Abby telling him he really, really should go back to Germany right now. And basically Kevin gives him a job at the garage, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And so he's going to be staying here for the long term, I guess. There is a little bit of flirting between Ronnie and... it's not even flirting between Ronnie and Leanne. They just have a nice time together at the pub, really, wouldn't they? And she's saying to him, who would you go for if you could have the pick of any woman in the world? Is it Debbie Webster? And he's still not over her. I wouldn't be either.
No, she's unforgettable.
Quite a woman is that Debbie Webster. There was only a little bit of this on Friday, thank goodness for me, to be honest. Debbie's bringing breakfast round. She's suspicious of Ronnie and Leanne in the street again.
When Debbie and Carl come, Kevin and Abby don't want them there, and it's Kevin doesn't want them there because he's tired.
It was a really dark scene, wasn't it?
And Abby doesn't want them there because she doesn't want Carl in the house, and she also is trying to rebuild this romance with what her husband's called.
Kevin. Yeah.
That's it, really, isn't it?
That's it. Carl's got a job at the garage. Just get it on. Come on, please. I just can't take this anymore. Just do it, you two. Or kick him in the ghoulies and send him back off to Germany, honestly. He's...
They like that in Germany.
Sorry,
they're very kinky folk, aren't they?
I'm just feeling very, very down about this story.
I don't mind it. It's so funny.
Yeah,
I don't mind it.
I can't be doing with it.
What did you think? Okay.
What did I think? What
about Dylan's story?
It was okay. I was quite curious. I think last week on the podcast we talked about, when's Dylan going to come back? What's he like? I genuinely had no idea at that point that he was coming back this week. I thought it was going to be July or August sometime he was back on the street. So it was quite a surprise when Sean started saying on Monday, Dylan's being released tomorrow. And I was like, I wonder what he is going to be like. Because the last time we saw him was after he'd given Brody that kicking, isn't it?
That's right. So Sean's like, Lou, keep that Brody away from my son. And he tells Gary that he's a bit scared about what Dylan's going to be like. So he goes to visit him in the prison and says, look, what's your strategy? How are you going to deal with Brody? And Dylan's like, look, Dad, don't worry about it. There's no chance. I'm going back to the STC. It's going to be fine. And Gary sees Sean and they talk about how what's going to happen. And Gary says, Sean, the STC might have changed
He was only in there for like 4 months, wasn't he?
Well, it's changed him. Spoiler alert. Wednesday, he comes out, he and Sean go to the flat, and Sean's like, let's have a party, let's do this and that. And he's like, no, I just have lunch in the cafe, I don't need a big to do.
Who should be in the cafe?
Brody!
In he comes.
And Sean's like, don't start anything. Let's just be careful. And Dylan's like, look, maybe Brody should be the one watching his step, not me. Then we see Dylan cornering Brody in the ginnel, going,
that
look,
was quite fun.
Don't you come near me or you'll regret it. And Brody looks really scared of him.
We didn't get any scenes either of Dylan kind of going phew and then going back to his normal persona.
He's literally learned to be a bully in the STC.
Yeah.
So what does it stand for?
I don't know.
No, student.
Send the children.
Yeah, send the children, and then in brackets to prison. So.
I'm glad that they've gone down this route with him. I suppose.
I love it. Glenda sees them talking, reports back to Sean, and tells him that it was Dylan in Brody's face, and Sean doesn't understand this. So he talks to Dylan about it, and he goes, yeah, I threatened him, so what? And Sean says, look, do not get involved in it, the last thing you need, I don't want you anything.
Yeah, he's worried that his son is going down
a path
that is going to end in getting stabbed in the precinct.
Yeah. And he's worrying that Dylan is a villain because he doesn't know the storyline title. Mm-hmm. On Friday, he tells Dylan, I spoke to the college about you going back and they've got to do a risk assessment about you. And he's like, no, don't worry about it.
What if he brings out a knife in the middle
of
class?
What will we do?
What do we do in this
Throw
instance?
gel at him and surround the knife with gel.
Yes.
Protective gel. Kids love slime, don't they?
Tar and feather him.
Is slime still a thing?
I don't think it's a thing. That's a bit Nickelodeon in the 90s, isn't it?
No, no. It was a social media thing.
A little bit crinkly bottom Knowles Edmonds.
No, this not that slime.
Oh,
the goo, the ooze.
Oh yeah, children love that.
Yeah, see.
Yeah, there's always a stall of kids doing that in our summer fair.
Well, there you go. See, and it prevents knife crime.
There we go.
And that's a fact. You can write to the.
I'm sure there's a slogan you can make out of that.
Slime, no more knives.
No, slime and crime, it rhymes, doesn't it?
Slime and crime rhymes, so don't do either.
that is still working.
We got to work. We'll workshop it later, guys.
Yeah, it's 10:30 at night. We're
right.
Not firing on all cylinders here.
So, Brody and Betsy get into confrontation in the street, and Dylan tries to break this up, and Daniel happens to be walking past. He's like, look, lads, you don't want to end up back at the STC, do you?
And Daniel's excuse for not being at the STC today is, never mind.
They let me out. I did my time,
he
boys.
He does talk about doing some marking in the cafe later, doesn't he? Like, you're never at work.
You don't do any work, you lazy layabout.
I know.
Daniel finds Dylan.
The only time he goes into work is if there's a character that's in the.
He's like, yeah, I'm not going back there because nobody's in.
Yeah.
None of the regulars are in.
The regulars.
Maybe when Tim and Sally get a new foster kid, I'll be able to go back. Because they'll obviously be wrong, won't they? Or that's where they'll start off.
Mm.
Right. So Daniel finds Dylan and Betsy in the precinct later and says, I don't know. I don't want what happened to Mason to happen to Brody.
Yeah, he said a bit of understanding would go a long way. So he's basically saying, I know that Brody was a total arse and made your life miserable and tried to get your dad to smuggle, a phone, drugs into prison, but just understand him. He's a broken lad.
Why doesn't he try to understand him?
Are you enjoying this story?
I like Dylan's dark Dylan, but other than that, I'm still not into.
No, I'm not
Brody.
into Brody at all. It's the same as last week.
He's just like Mason in that I find the actor is very, very good because I really hate this character. Like, I find him smug and insufferable.
I do, but he does have the extra bit of, we've seen this character archetype.
Yeah, how long
and time
is it
again,
before
not very
we're going
long
to be
ago.
crying because he gets stabbed? By Dylan this time.
And then we just got the Layla story, haven't we? Basically, we've got Dee Dee.
Oh, I can't believe this.
Still trying to make out that she's fine.
No, hang on. I believe her.
No, you're right. She pretty much is, isn't she? She has that scene at the beginning of Friday's episode where she's being all nice and lovely with Glory. Really, and Ed's very heartened by it, but also a little bit. I kind of got the impression he was a bit concerned. Has she done the wrong thing giving the? Yeah, no, I thought has she done the wrong thing giving Layla up to James?
I find this really hard to watch, really, because it's so difficult to be a woman who has decided something about children that is not a traditional choice that women make. Yeah. And so you've got Dee Dee here who has done exactly that, gone, I don't want this child. I've told you I don't want this child. I've had the child and I don't want the child and I'm not going to change my mind. Mm-hmm. And you just won't accept it. The more every scene that she's in that they talk about this and Layla's in this scene, you just know we're one step closer to her going, oh no, it is a Disney film after all. I am going to. There's certainly. Well, it's so tricky because I really, really do not want her to do that. But on the other hand, it would be really lovely if she did. But on the other hand, I'm like, again, because I've got 3 of them, I don't want to. I think that we've had so many stories where that happens. Can we not have a story where it's okay that the woman doesn't actually want her baby? I'm just not sure how they can get to a stage where that doesn't happen now. Yes, because exactly. Basically, Dee Dee goes to the bistro. She's been turned down by someone, or she's been stood up by someone or other. Daniel's there as well. They get chatting, and I wonder whether could there be a bit of a spark there between Daniel and Dee Dee. I don't think they're anything like each other, and I don't think that Daniel at all would stick Dee Dee's Christianity. He couldn't handle her being more intelligent than him either. No, that's right, actually. Mm-hmm. I think that there could be a real clash there. But it doesn't mean they're not going to go down the route, or at least try it. Can you have a relationship with 3Ds? I don't think it's possible. Relationship now in 3D. That's what you could call it. So they're talking, and then they go out, and then they see James rocking up on the street again with little Layla in a buggy, because it turns out that, sorry, brace yourselves for this, listeners. What happened? He and Danny have split up. Did Danny die? No, he's split. After all that, he might as well have died in the car crash a couple of months ago. They split up because he's had an affair with a therapist. Honestly. And then Sally goes, my daughter had an affair with her therapist. Physiotherapist. I cannot believe this. These two that were supposedly so in love and they were desperate to have a child of their own, and now one of them's like, Danny just doesn't seem the sort. Honestly, I know we don't know much about Danny. We've seen him a few times, but he doesn't seem flaky. No. The impression I got also, well, it was that, I don't know why or whether I'm off base here, but it felt to me like Danny was the driver of let's have a baby. Did you really? I know that James was very into it. He was proper into it, yeah. But I don't know why I got that impression. They obviously were both equally into it. Yeah. And now he's like, no, I'd rather just stay with what's a good physiotherapist's name? Roberto. Well, Michael, who's clearly Jim's physiotherapist back in the day. Could be a lady. Could be Jenna. Like Jenna. I think it is Jenna. I think she just. There's something about physiotherapists on this program. It's because they touch you, and they go, flex your muscle there. I can feel it tensing. Is that how they do it? Dee Dee is fuming that Michael's brought Layla back after all this, because I think she knows, doesn't she, that she was falling for her. She was showing an interest. She was. It's really hard when you've made... She was mooning over Layla. Just because you have feelings, and she admitted this, just because I think she loves her, right? But she still made a decision, and that decision was difficult to come to, but she's made her peace with it. I just think, James, what are you doing? I know. But don't turn up. Okay, but who didn't see this coming? What? So really, Dee Dee has got to be a bit simple in the head to have not ever foreseen the possibility that James might ever want to come back to the UK to see his family. What did she think was going to happen? There's a difference between that and coming back permanently, which is what he's saying at the moment. But he's totally within his rights to go, my life has just fallen apart. I need my family. Go to your mum. I know, we were saying, if only there was a woman who could solve family problems, and loved her children. James was Aggie's golden boy. I know. He should have got wherever she is. Maybe she's like, no, I'm over it. I'm looking after Auntie Corona now. I'm waiting for her to die, and then I'm never going to cook anyone's dinner again because you're all ungrateful. I think that Dee Dee is being asked, an awful lot of being asked is after Dee Dee. It's the last scene of the episode, isn't it? Is Dee Dee and Ed
in the benches round the back, which have we seen those
No.
painted little seats
What a
before?
stylish
That
little
felt
yard
quite
they
good.
have.
We saw that today, and Gemma and I both remarked, I don't know whether you did as well, listeners, on that fourth wall that appeared in The Undertakers today with the big oil painting of Archie. We were looking at that and saying, are they in a different place here?
Yeah, I was like, is this George's house?
So anyway, Ed's basically saying to Dee Dee, because the Bailey boys get together for a bit of a heads together, and Ed says to Dee Dee, well, James does hate staying here without your blessing, and Dee Dee's was kind of guilt-tripped into saying, well, I suppose I'm going to have to cope then, aren't I?
Does he have no support system in America?
Oh,
honestly, is it not kind of a bit off of him to have taken this baby to America with nobody, no friends,
well, yeah,
no
Danny,
family,
that's all he needed.
No support? What were they going to do if they both got... You know what I mean?
I don't think
they don't
that's a
have any
problem.
friends over... Okay, I know why... I know why they've done it in the story, but like... Come on. Yeah. You don't have any friends you could crash on their sofa.
I can't...
But the thing... No, I'm just saying... Not saying nobody should ever have a baby if they don't have friends and family. That's a stupid thing to say. What I'm saying is... You knew that the one place you should not go is your dad's house.
Yeah.
For very important reasons that were explained to you meticulously. And at this point, it seems like you're flirting with having your kid taken away.
Totally.
Like,
totally.
Is this what you actually
all
want?
on James at the moment. Yeah, he's not.
Do you not have any
friends
friends in this country?
Yeah.
Didn't you go to London for ages to be a footballer? Did you just make enemies of everybody that lived there and you have nobody you can turn to? Do you not have the resources to rent a place?
The Baileys are a very close-knit family, aren't they? And that's one of the things I do like about them, is that they're very loyal to each other and they band together in times of need, but
I totally get
he needs to read the room and see that this isn't going to be good for Dee.
Equally, it did annoy me when he went, I can't look after her by myself. Really? You're a grown man. You can't look after a baby by yourself. Women do it all the time. Other men do it all the time.
Single parents are a thing.
You could do this. It has been documented, in very rare cases. You might have to watch a David Attenborough programme to get any ideas.
You forget one slight default about James, though, is that about James is that he is kind of useless, isn't he?
His heart might explode as well.
That's true. What if he just drops dead? Yeah. Well, not dead. What happened to him? His heart just stopped, didn't it?
Who brought him back to life?
I can't remember.
I thought he had something in him to go back up
again.
He
does, doesn't he? He's got a little thing, hasn't he? He'll be all right. Right, that was this week's Coronation stream. I kind of whizzed through part of it because
you got a bit fed up, didn't you?
I was a bit fed up with some of it. I thought it was, on the whole, it was a decent week. As much as the relationship stuff between Eileen was a bit and going around in circles, I get why they needed to do it, but I was happy the way that she was written out. I loved the Grimshaw family dynamic there. It was nice seeing more of George even, so that was really quite strong. The Sally and Tim scenes were proper classic Corrie as far as I'm concerned. And it was good that Dylan was out. It was just as a fair storyline really that's really left a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm not too invested yet in the Dee Dee one.
See, this is interesting because when I watched this week, I thought it was okay. But talking about all the stories, I'm actually really a lot more interested in them than I perhaps thought I was.
That's good. I've just realised, I think, that as I've been recording this evening, and maybe our listeners can prove me right on this. Well, did you gave today's episode a bog standard, didn't you? On the short.
Yeah, but maybe.
Yeah, I think you did. I think I forgot to change a little graphic at the end. In today's
we had somebody disagreeing with us on YouTube about saying it was great.
Did that? Well, it was fine. It was
fine. The exit was astonishing and nearly had me in tears.
Oh, well, they're fine. They can have that if they want to. It was fine. It's
one of the best episodes of the year. I'm really glad you liked it.
With that. Yeah, I always like it when people.
I just think I probably would have liked it a lot more if it wasn't like the 7th exit in the space of 6 months, and that's unfair on all the characters, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just the way it is.
And unfortunately, you're going to make comparisons to Gail's exit. You just are, because they're both big, strong female characters that have been in the show for decades.
Yeah. What are you scoring this week's Coronation Street then, Gemma?
This is difficult.
You said you enjoyed it a little bit more.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good.
I think I'm going to give it 4 saluting cab drivers.
Very good. 4. That was a pretty strong score.
Yeah.
I'll go for 3.5. I'm going to give it 3.5 burps that they can hear in Balaclava Terrace out of 5. And character of the week, I mean, do you go for Eileen again? Because that's the most obvious one.
No. Because I honestly did not think... I did not really... Apart from the fact that she was played by Sue Cleaver, I didn't really get Eileen-y vibes off of her.
I loved Sally and Tim, but honestly, I think my character of the week this week was Jason. I loved every scene that Jason was in. I think he's completely recaptured how Jason was. He's considering he's sworn off acting now. I thought that Ryan Thomas just fell completely natural in those scenes. I really did enjoy him.
He did play Jason for quite a long time.
Yeah, I know.
It must have been so weird coming back.
Yeah, it must have been. Jason made me happy this week. It was
nice.
Really great to have him back in the show, so I'm giving it to him.
I really do not know who to give it to.
Well, you must.
Maybe
decide.
I'll tell you who I'll give it to. Danielle for showing Theo how it's done.
Yeah. Okay, well, there we go. There's our character of the week and our scores.
She cheated on him and she's happy about it. Unlike Theo, who spent the whole time being miserable.
Right, that is Street Talk done.
With good reason, but I still don't like him.
That is Street Talk done for this week.
Yeah, we've done it now.